I would like to welcome you to the March 13th, 2025 Delaware County Redevelopment Commission meeting. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Henry, do you mind leading us in the pledge?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Danielle, will you call roll, please?
Rob.
Present.
Michelle.
Here.
Shannon.
Here.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Henry.
That's fine.
And Commissioner Brand.
Here.
Amber.
Here. Next on the agenda, approve the minutes from the February 13th, 2025 meeting. Has everyone reviewed the minutes?
Motion approved.
Second. I have something on page 2, 8E. It mentions that the motion to table was made by me. I believe that motion was Commissioner Brand.
Is that the Yorktown?
Yes, that's the traffic study agreement from Mr. Bruton.
We can update pending that change.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Do you guys want to go by Mr. and Mrs. first names?
Whatever's your pleasure.
Whatever's easiest.
Okay, Rob.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Brand.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Amber.
Yes. Okay, number 4 on the agenda, open bids for the 2025 mowing RFP. Everyone had a chance to review that RFP. It was sent to us.
Yes.
Any questions?
None.
Okay.
So the bids have been made.
We have 2 that came in. Do you guys want me to open or Amber, do you want to open them? Okay. The first one is from J. Crew Landscaping, 2901 South Garkey Street. Looks like trying to see if these are just all the same packet for each of you, if they're different parcels. Okay, all the same packet. So we've got Cowan Road, parcel 1, 4254 South Cowan Road. Occurs 3 times, $1,000 a piece for a total of $3,000. Then they have parcel 2, 4254 South Cowan Road, occurring 3 times for a total of $2,001. Parcel 3, 9175 Innovation Drive in Delville, occurring 3 times for a total of $1,320. Parcel 4, 3710 West Morrison, occurs 20 times. This is mowing, trimming, and blowing for a total of $1,700. And then it looks like there's just a packet for everyone in is what the remainder of this is. The next one is Coops Lawn Care. The address is 2800 South Cowan Road, Muncie. This has all parcels on the same quote, and it's $3,905.
Is it the same frequency?
Well, so on, maybe a tad confusing. So on parcel 1, the quantity is 16.83 for a total of 1683 at a rate of $100. Parcel 2 on the 4100 block of Cowan Road, the quantity says 11.48 at $100, so 1148.
So they're doing it by hours.
And then we've got parcel 3 on Innovation, 9175 Innovation Drive is quantity of 8.31 at $100 for 831. Parcel 4 on 3710 North Morrison, quantity of 2.43 at $100, so 243 with the grand total of 3905.
So it appears that Coops is lower than J. Crew as a whole package. I would make a recommendation to take these under advisement.
Second.
You want to take it under advisement and have Danielle review them?
Yeah, I think we should review the scope and make sure that apples and apples.
I don't disagree.
Because there's not a match.
Will we have time?
Yeah, the first mowing won't happen until,
Well, in the paperwork, it says that, once it reaches 12 inches, you have 2 weeks to get on it.
right?
So I'll be honest, I think you're looking at it a little bit different. I broke it down per occurrence. They based it off of 3 mows per year. If you have to mow, if you have to bush hog it 3 times a year or however they're doing it, you could only have to do it twice a year. So it's just kind of however, it depends on you, really, it's up to you guys.
So I think we would,
Okay,
considering
that's
that the weeds have to grow.
Yeah,
It
that's
has to grow to 12 inches before we mow it. I think we'd have time.
So the motion is to take it under advisement pending legal and commission review.
Did you get a second?
Yes.
Rob seconded it.
Any other questions? Danielle, will you call roll, please?
Kiesling,
Yes.
we'll change it up. Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Spatters,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. Baker Tilly, good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see everyone today. My name is Matt Eckerly. I am a principal with Baker Tilly out of Indianapolis. And with me are my colleagues, Sam Schrader and Julia Dankman. And we are here today to do something I was talking with Julia. I think we've been doing this for about 10 years now for the Redevelopment Commission here, is preparing a comprehensive annual TIF report and then presenting its results to all of you. And there's 2 documents that you have hard copies of, and we'll make sure to provide electronic versions as well. Oh, sorry.
Guys, question. Are those extra copies of the same thing?
They are,
Is
yeah.
there anybody in the audience that would like a copy? Please raise your hand. So the auditor's office, I see the mayor.
And we'll make sure to get electronic
Yeah.
versions to you as well.
I'll help you, Daniel.
We
So-
very much appreciate that they are put together and ringed, but it's hard to make them electronic when you have made them so pretty.
Yes, yes, no, we'll get nice, clean electronic versions. And so you have 2 documents. You have the full TIF report, which is about 130 pages. And then you also have a summary presentation, which is 80 slides. The summary presentation wasn't printed on both the 2 pages on one piece of paper, so that's why it's the same thickness. But really, what I'm going to do is walk through the summary presentation. And there's a ton of content here. I'm gonna try to keep it high level, but I'm happy to dive into the details as any of you see fit. So please feel free to interrupt me with any questions you may have. So we're just gonna start, and I'll also qualify this with, this is on an allocation by allocation area basis. Now, just to level set a little bit, you have a couple different types of terminology you'll hear. An economic development area or redevelopment area is really the planning area over which you have defined a plan for the expenditure of tax increment revenues. The allocation area is the actual geography within which you are capturing the incremental assessed value and resulting revenues. You can have multiple allocation areas within a single economic development area, and that is the case here in Delaware County. Part 1 is the economic development area, but you have multiple allocation areas within it. And Industria Center is another sizable allocation area or economic development area that you have that has multiple allocation areas within it. So I'll be kind of bouncing back and forth a little bit between those terms, but we're going to really start with the Morrison Road redevelopment allocation area. This is one of the county's 2 what we call legacy allocation areas. And what that means is that they were established before July 1st of 1995. And as a result, the term of the allocation area is tied to the obligations that were outstanding as of July 1 of 2015. So the Morrison Road allocation area expires February 1, 2040. After the final maturity of your 2021 new money bonds. Now, there were 2015 bonds that had been outstanding that the Redevelopment Commission refinanced in 2021, and that expiration date follows the final maturity of those refunding bonds. A portion of that allocation area has been annexed into the city of Muncie, but one thing that's important to note is that you're not capturing the city of Muncie tax rate that's imposed on the taxpayers in that allocation area. So that assessed value is actually included in the tax base of the city of Muncie. It was expanded, the economic development area was expanded in 2018 to create Morrison Road allocation area number 2, which we'll get into in a moment. You have 2 bond issues that are payable from this allocation area. You have the redevelopment district refunding TIF bonds of 2021, which refinanced the 2015 bonds. You have about $3.821 million of outstanding principal left on those. Those are payable solely from the tax increment revenues generated in that allocation area, which means if something were to happen, those tax increment revenues fall short, the county is not on the hook to put any other county funds to backfill that. That's a risk that the bond purchasers took. They mature in 2040. And they're also subject to redemption provisions that where you can call them before final maturity if you so choose. You also have outstanding redevelopment district tax increment revenue bonds series 2021. Those were new money bonds that were issued in 2021. You've got $5,208,000 of outstanding principal left on those. Those are also payable solely from tax increment generated in that allocation area. And those were issued to fund a multitude of different redevelopment projects out in that allocation area. Moving on, in 2024, we had estimated that you would collect about $1.2 million from this allocation area. You ended up collecting about $1.5 million. A lot of times when you see the collections exceeding the estimates, a lot of that's due to delinquencies from prior years. Pay 2025, the assessed value went down in that allocation area from 24 to 25. So we are estimating that you will collect about $895,000 in that allocation area this year. You have the 2 bond issues that you're gonna have payments due on this year. And so we're estimating you're gonna have about $230,000 available for other projects beyond what's required for debt service. Now, another unique characteristic of this allocation area is similar to what I said earlier about the not capturing the city of Muncie tax rate, is that because Morrison Road is a legacy allocation area, you actually have the ability to capture homestead residential property within that allocation area. Most traditional allocation areas around the state you don't have that ability, but if you were established prior to July 1 of 95, you can. It has long been the policy decision of the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission to pass through that incremental assessed value that you could capture for the benefit of the overlapping taxing units. So you're deferring the ability to actually generate revenues off of that assessed value. Last year, you passed through about $11.1 million, which would have generated about $330,000 in tax income. You make that annual determination before June 15th of each year. It's an action of the Redevelopment Commission, and then it's the obligation to distribute notifications to the county auditor and to the overlapping taxing units. So that's something I'm sure we'll be talking with Daniel as we approach that deadline. We usually prepare the form letters for those notifications and just confirm you want to do it again. And then locally, you'll handle the Redevelopment Commission action and then the distribution of the overlapping tax units. Then we work with the auditor's office on the back end to make sure that it's applied properly. Next slide, and you'll see this for all of the allocation areas. We have the proposed projects. One of the requirements is that the Redevelopment Commission annually lays out its plans for each allocation area. We carried these forward from what has been provided to us in the past. It's really under your purview to determine, if you want to change course on the expenditure of any of these. One thing you do need to keep in mind, and this is another role that Danielle plays, is that any projects, or at least the type of project, needs to be defined in the economic development plan for that allocation area. So, road projects, it's pretty broad. If you want to continue to fund road projects in that allocation area, you can just continue to do that. But if you want to do something else, like an educational programming partnership with school corporation, I'm pretty sure that's not in the economic development plan for the area. You would have to go through the public process to amend the economic development plan to add that kind of project to the plan. So all of these are within the plan, and something that, again, we always welcome feedback on, what needs to be updated here, but these are the general types of projects that have been outlined. We have also included the estimated impact of that pass-through determination on the overlapping taxing units. In Indiana, because you have a controlled levy system, increases in assessed value or pass-through of assessed value, that doesn't mean that the $300,000 that you would have generated from capturing that pass-through assessed value means that's $300,000 of new dollars going to the overlapping taxing units. Because of the levy controls, really what that does is that places downward pressure on the property tax rates in those taxing districts. And so that's what we're quantifying here, is what those tax rates would have been if the Redevelopment Commission hadn't made that pass-through determination. You'll see it ranges from the Hamilton Township Muncie Sanitary District, it's about a nickel. It's about 10 cents in Harrison Township, and so on and so forth. You do have certain funds that are controlled by their rate and that are outside of the maximum levy. That would be the Hamilton Township's Cumulative Fire Fund, Muncie Sanitary District's Cumulative Building Fund, and the Delaware County Airport Authority's Cumulative Building Fund. Those are funds that actually, if they keep their rate, if they make the determination to keep that rate steady, that you would be able to actually generate new revenue or lose revenue if you didn't pass through. And so this shows those revenue impacts. The county itself doesn't have one of those funds, but you could establish a cumulative capital development fund, and that's one where you can actually generate new dollars outside of the maximum levy. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Next up, we have a graphic. We realize not everyone likes to stare at a sea of numbers. So we have a graphic that just illustrates the tax increment revenue coverage over your debt obligations. And as you can see here, you've got pretty healthy coverage. You don't have any real concerns there. Next up, we have Morrison Road allocation area number 2. This was that expansion that was actually established as a separate allocation area that I referenced earlier. That was established in 2018. There hasn't been any development activity in that area, so you're not collecting any increment, you have no obligations.
Question.
Yes.
This was established before the 1995 date, but it was expanded in 2018, so can you still capture housing?
You cannot in this one. That's a great question. Each establishment amendment, it's based on the law when those were actually established. So since this one was established in 2018, it's under the laws that were applicable in 2018, so you cannot capture homestead residential in that one. It also, for allocation areas that were established after July 1 of 2008, their statutory term is 25 years from the first obligation that was issued payable from that TIF. So this one hasn't had its clock start ticking yet, so to speak, because the revenues haven't been obligated.
So once we would utilize this, the clock of 25 years would start
Exactly.
ticking.
So if you issue bonds payable from TIF in this allocation area next year, it's gonna be 25 years from 2026.
Thank you.
And just to fill the gap, because I talked about pre-95, I talked about post-2008. If they were established between July 1 of 95 and June 30th of 2008, their statutory term is 30 years. So moving on, we have Nebo Road allocation area number 1, which,
Sorry, one more question on this one. So we don't have a plan for this one?
there's an economic development plan that's very broad, but since there's no revenue, we didn't include the project information for that. But we're happy to pull that out, and I'm sure Daniel and John have that economic development plan as well.
I'd like to see it.
Allocation area number 1, Nebo Road allocation area number 1. This is also termed the Nebo Land Partners. It's set up around some car dealerships. It was originally established in 2002, so it's got the 30-year terms that I talked about earlier. It was divided into 2 allocation areas in 2012, allocation area number 1, allocation area number 2, and then it was also expanded, the economic development area, with a third allocation area established in 2018. But right now we're going to focus on allocation area number 1. There is one bond issue that is obligated in that allocation area. It's the 2012 Economic Development Revenue Bonds. They were purchased by one of the dealer owners. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. There's $1,465,000 outstanding. It is payable solely from the TIF. And if the TIF does fall short, the county is not obligated to fill the gap. It is actually Nebo Land Partners that is obligated to make a payment to cover the shortfall, even though they own the bond, so it's kind of a circular transaction. They mature in 2034, and they are callable, which means you can redeem them at any time on 7 days' notice. Last year, we estimated $192,000 of tax increment. The actual collections were $147,000. This year, we're estimating it's going to come in at about $172,000. The debt service due in 2025 is $201,000. So that shortfall is payable from the company, or if there's any funds on hand, any bond funds. And then the next page is a graphic illustration. And again, similar to the Morrison 2, we didn't include any of the project information because this one is 100% pledged for the repayment of those bonds. Nebo allocation area number 2, again, we've got the history, which is similar to allocation area number 1. There are no debt obligations outstanding for that allocation area. In 2024, we estimated $140,000 of tax increment. Actual distribution was $144,000. We're estimating $161,000 this year. And then the next slide contains the proposed projects for that allocation area. I know a lot of that has been used for road paving over the years, and I think also some bridge maintenance activities, if I remember right. Allocation area number 3 out in Nebo. Again, we've already gone through the establishment amendment history. It's not generating any money. There are no bonds outstanding. This, similar to Morrison, I remember when the county took the actions to establish them, Morrison 2, I should say. That's what has been described to me as prime ground for the development, and the goal was to get out in front of it so you're ready to go if development does occur.
And there's a broad plan for this one as well?
Yes. And Daniel, as you look for those, we should have them, but I know We don't always get the final versions, but just let us know. We can.
Thanks, yeah.
All right, moving on. We have the Park Save-A-Lot and Park 1 allocation areas. Those are both located within the larger Park 1 economic development area. We're showing them together because historically they've been tied because they were both pledged to bonds that were issued in 2000 to fund Save-A-Lot, an incentive for Save-A-Lot. So we've treated them concurrent with one another for a long time. They were established in 2000, so they expire in 2030. And the 2000 bonds have since been paid off. But the TIF generated in these two allocation areas was pledged to the Redevelopment District Tax Increment Revenue Bond Series 2023, which were actually issued kind of centered on the two Bravini areas, so we'll get into some more detail on those here in a moment. In 2024, the estimated distribution was $419,000. The actual is $353,000. Similar to what I had said earlier, shortfalls typically are due to delinquencies. Sometimes, and we've been going back and forth with the auditor's office and their software vendor to get some more information on some of these. Sometimes we want to make sure that the revenues were properly allocated between the different allocation areas. We haven't really had that issue here in Delaware County, but it's also always something we keep an eye on because we do see in other counties from time to time. So we are looking into the reason for that discrepancy. 2025, the estimated tax increment is $426,000.
That could be short because the Bravini didn't develop. Right?
Well, and there are separate allocation areas for Bravini.
Okay.
So that would be captured there. And so it could be that, it could be late payments. We've had instances in other counties where taxpayers, for some reason, there was turnover at the taxpayer and they sent the check to the wrong place. There's any number of reasons, but we are looking into that and we'll communicate back as we get more information.
And who's responsible for the shortfall?
The shortfall would be the taxpayer because really these revenues are derived from their property tax payments. So if there's a shortfall due to a delinquency, that's because taxpayers don't pay their taxes. For your allocation areas, that you don't have a lot, say for Morrison Road, Daleville, where you have a lot of different taxpayers that you're trying to keep track of. So for some of these, it's a little more focused. You'll see it and say, parcel XYZ, that's owned by this person, they didn't pay. Sometimes you can give them a friendly call and see what's up. Sometimes when we're working in larger communities, or I know the city of Muncie has this issue from time to time, you've got hundreds of parcels in allocation areas, and it could just be a lot of people were late on their taxes. So here at least you can have a little more focus.
That you're following up on.
Yeah, we're looking into it. I know Julia's been in communication with the auditor's office to get the reports we need to distill that a little bit better. So that TIF is obligated, but you are generating a little bit over and above what's needed for those 2023 bonds, and we'll quantify that here later. And these are the different projects that have been defined to tackle with that money. Next up, we have Park Tucson and New Tucson allocation areas, which are again out in that Park 1 economic development area. These were created as Tucson, but it's really where Mercix sits. They were established, the original Park 1 in 2000, but then these were split into their own allocation areas back in 2010, and they are tied to the issuance of the 2010 bonds, which were issued in 2010, then refinanced in 2014. In the 2014 bonds, you have $2,465,000 outstanding principal, payable from the TIF generated in the Park Tucson and New Tucson allocation areas. And similar to the Nero Partners transaction, any shortfalls are the responsibility of the Murrays who own Mercix. So again, and you'll see here in a second, TIF hasn't been sufficient to pay those bonds, so the Murrays have been making payments on a note that they have with Old National Bank. And those mature in 2034. Estimated tax increment in 2024, $321,000. Be collected $321,000. Pay 25, we're estimating $327,000. The debt service due is $339,000. So that $11,900 shortfall is going to be the responsibility of the Murrays as it has been in the past. And then the next page is a graphic representation of that. Park Bravini and New Bravini. Again, those were established in that larger Park 1 economic development area. They were split off in 2010 at the same time as all of those splits were taking place. There's the New Bravini and Park Bravini allocation areas. They are tied to the issuance of the 2012 bonds were issued payable from the New Bravini allocation area, so that's what triggered the start of that allocation area's clock. Because of the way the Park Bravini allocation area was set up, it actually has an expiration that is earlier. I can't remember the particulars of that, but it was one of those kind of legal vagaries at the time. That one expires in 2030. Bravini Wind USA ceased operations in 2016, but then that allocation area was amended in 2023 to add a parcel and to designate Muncie Power Products and SRM Concrete, which are now located out there, as designated taxpayers. Designated taxpayer is a legal designation that you need to make if you're going to capture assessed value generated by depreciable personal property investment. A traditional TIF, you don't just capture any equipment investments that happen, you have to take action to designate taxpayers. And that's what happened with Muncie Power Products and SRM. So you're actually capturing the incremental value from their equipment investments. I should have mentioned earlier, Save Lot is another example of that, and same with Tucson or Mersix. So there is one bond issue now outstanding payable from those two allocation areas, but it's also payable from the Park 1 and Park Save Lot allocation areas and the I-69 allocation area. Those are the 2023 bonds that were issued to fund a bunch of projects, mainly road projects out in that allocation area. $2.2 million of outstanding principal, and they mature in 2038. And they are payable only from the TIF generated in those allocation areas. So again, TIF falls short, the county's not on the hook with other funds. 2024, you collected what we had estimated, $148,000 in that allocation area. We're estimating you'll collect about $144,000 due this year. The debt service due for those 2023 bonds this year is $393,000. Between those 4 or 5 allocation areas, we're estimating that you'll collect about $437,000. So you're gonna have enough left over to do other projects out in that area. And those proposed projects are in line with what we talked about earlier with Park 1 and Park Save a Lot. I know every time I drive by there, I'm waiting for the traffic lights to get put on. So. And then here's a graphic illustration of the revenues versus the debt service due. And then moving right along into the I-69 allocation area, that's out in that same Park 1 region. It was established on its own, however, in 2008. Its TIF has been pledged to those 2023 bonds that we just talked about. You're collecting right what had been estimated, and this year there was actually a little bit of assessed value and tax rate growth out there. We're estimating you're going to collect about $11,000. And same kind of projects. Moving on to another side of town where we drove up this morning, the Magna allocation area, and that's located within the Industrious Center Economic Development area. And this one is centered on Magna Powertrain in particular. Magna is a designated taxpayer. There are no longer any bonds outstanding payable from this allocation area. It expires in 2034. Last year, we estimated about $1.1 million. You collected right on top of estimates. This year, we're estimating it's going to hold about steady. And there are a variety of proposed projects out in that allocation area as well. One thing to note, because this one doesn't have any outstanding debt obligations, I would say Magna, Midwest Metal, which we'll talk about in a moment, Industrious Center, which we'll talk about in a moment, North Industria, they're all out in that area. It has been, I mean, you did it in Park 1. If you were looking for opportunities, if you have projects where you need more money now than what's in the bank, those are all relatively free cash flow allocation areas that are clustered. You could leverage those into a bond issue if you deemed it fit to get strategic projects done out in that area. So I know there's always projects to be done. the clock is ticking on these, but this is, one of those spots where you have that opportunity if you determine that's the course you want to go.
What happens if it expires and we don't use the cash?
So the cash is still TIF cash, so it has to be spent in accordance with the economic development plan for that area. So it'll still be there, but it doesn't just revert to the general fund or anything like
And
that.
there's no legal way to extend the
No.
sunset on any TIF.
That's a great question. Yeah, there is no legal way to extend the sunset for a TIF. Once it has reached its statutory expiration, it is expired. You could always choose to reestablish on the exact same geography, but you're resetting that base assessed value to the net assessed value at that time. So you're only going to capture new development that occurs after that designation. So moving on to the industrial center allocation area. That was established in 2008, so it's got a 30-year term, no outstanding bonds again. The estimated tax increment was $406,000 last year. You only got about $331,000. That's another one where we're looking into what was driving that. In 2025, we are estimating about $405,000 and a lot of the same types of proposed projects out in that area. Moving on, you have the Midwest Metals allocation area, which was split from the industrial center allocation area back in 2010. There were actually bonds that were issued against that in 2012, so its clock started ticking in 2012. But those bonds were paid off several years ago. You were collecting a lot of revenues, and if the strategic determination was made, it made sense to just pay those off rather than keep paying interest on that principal. So that money is now free and clear. Last year, we estimated about $406,000. You collected right on top of estimates. This year, we're estimating about $412,000 of revenues. And again, a lot of the same types of proposed projects out in that allocation area. Up next, which is out in that same geography, is the PRL allocation area, which was established around Progress Rail back in 2010. Progress Rail is a designated taxpayer, so you are capturing incremental personal property assessed value out there as well. And this does have bonds outstanding. You've got about $1,038,000 of outstanding principal due on those that are payable from PRL TIF, plus CREED that's collected in, that's called the ABB CREED area. And CREED is similar to TIF, except you also capture incremental state and local income and sales taxes that are generated from that area. Out there, it's income tax that's generating it. You have $1 million cap on that. These bonds are subject to optional redemption, but they have premiums built into it that basically makes you, if you wanted to pay them off this year, you would basically have to pay all of the interest that remains on those to get out from under it. So we've looked at it in the past. They're owned by Star Financial Bank. We've tried to talk with Star over the years to get them to waive those premiums. They have not been willing to do that. So we have tried. And I will say that Delaware County is not the only entity that we work with that has similar redemption provisions from Star. So,
Is that unusual language?
It is from what I see in the market today. At that time, we were seeing a lot more TIF deals that didn't have property tax backups, where there were premium provisions built in. So, they were seeing themselves as taking on more risk because of the nature of the security. These days, we don't see a lot of it. And you don't have those provisions like for the 2023 bonds that we did, the 2021 bonds that we did. Those don't have any of those premium provisions built in, but PRL bonds do, and also your Delaware bonds have those provisions built in as well. Back in 2015, we saw a lot more of that than we do today. Last year, we estimated about $617,000 of tax increment. You collected $615,000, so when it's that small of a discrepancy, it's usually software rounding, things of that nature. It's not enough to rise to a concern. This year, we're estimating it's going to hold pretty steady. Your debt service due is $249,000. Your estimated tax increment remaining after that, $368,000 you have to do other projects. I will say too, we haven't mentioned the CREED in this. CREED, because it flows through the State Department of Revenue, is a little harder to track. We've actually had issues in the past where the State Department of Revenue did not pay Delaware County its creed revenues that were due to it, so they had to make catch-up payments, and to be frank, it was a little painful to get that information, but we were able to get it. So we didn't include it, but I'm just looking, the creed expires, they have a 15-year statutory term from when you start collecting, and so the creed expires, it's in here. I've got that somewhere. I don't have it handy. I'll get you that information. It's within the next 5 years that it expires. So I'll get that information to you. But you have been capping out at that $1 million a year maximum. And that's actually a unique maximum to Delaware County. Delaware County is also the only place in the state that was allowed to establish multiple creeds. So you're special. Proposed projects are very similar to the other ones out in that geography. And then we have the graphic illustration of the tax increment and the 2015 bonds debt service. In 2030 is close enough now, though, where you can start planning for the next phase of this allocation area. Now, out in that geography,
That graphic on 53 does not
include the creed. It is only the TIF, again, because the creed is fuzzy. We try to deal with what we know in a more tangible manner in this report. So you also have the North Industria Center allocation area that was established in 2021. That money has not been obligated yet, so you're just collecting on it. $90,000 estimated revenues last year, you collected right underneath that. This year we're estimating in that same neighborhood, $89,000. Similar types of projects out in that allocation area. Another one that was established out in that area, State Road 67 allocation area, that's an extension down State Road 67 over towards Daleville. That was established 2 years ago, has not been obligated. This is the first year you're having an opportunity to collect revenue. There hasn't been any development. You're not capturing anything this year because there hasn't been assessed value growth. But again, prime developable land that you're ready if something comes. Next up is the Houston Shell Building allocation area. This was established in 2021. This was the Living Greens Farms allocation area. Living Greens was designated as a designated taxpayer, as we're all aware. They have not developed. You did issue bonds payable from that TIF back in 2022. You authorized $4 million of issuance. Only $135,000 was actually drawn upon. These were issued as draw bonds, which meant the proceeds are drawn down as needed. So only $135,000 was drawn. $71,000 of that was paid last November. And I know Commissioner Brandon, you and I have talked, I don't know, have you made the formal determination as a body to pay the remaining 64?
It's on our agenda today.
Okay, well, there you go. I didn't see that on the agenda. So once that $64,000 is paid, you can still draw on those bonds, but you're not obligated to make any payments to the bondholders. So that's important to keep in mind. That will be still technically obligated, but you can still spend that money on a pay-as-you-go basis as you see fit until the bonds are canceled or they're drawn and then you repay them. And those are payable solely from a pledge of 70% of the allocation area annual revenues out there. Last year, we estimated $182,000 of tax increment. You actually collected $202,000. There were some delinquent taxes from the prior year. And then this year, we're estimating about $179,000 of revenue. Fountain Square, this is CanPac. This was established in 2021. CanPac was designated as a designated taxpayer. So you are capturing all of that equipment, and that's really hitting in 2025. We estimated last year you collected $184,000. You collected right on top of that estimate. This year we're estimating you're going to collect about $3.2 million. And that's due to the facility being done and then having equipment installed and in operation. You have two series of bonds that are payable from this allocation area. Series 2021A, you have about $19.2 million outstanding. Series 2021B, you have $39,000 outstanding because those were issued as draw bonds. Now I'll go back. 2021A is payable from 75% of the TIF collected in that allocation area for the first 15 years that you're collecting tips, so that clock is starting to tick, but that's not the term of the allocation area. You're still gonna capture the additional 10 years on the tail end. They mature in 2040 because that's the first 15 years of material tax increment revenues. The 2021 BE bonds, you have authorized $6.6 million, but you've only drawn $39,000. And the reason for that is the agreements with the company were that the county would authorize additional draws when they invest in their, what they call the additional phase of that facility. And we had a call with them last summer about that, and laid out, it was Heather James and myself from Ice Miller along with Brad, and I can't remember if John Brook was on that or not. But basically informing CanPAC, they're free to draw on that when they demonstrate that they have spent what they said that they were gonna spend and hired the amount of people that they said that they were gonna hire. I have not seen such evidence. They have not followed up saying that we're looking for those draws, but that's something that is out there. And the bond agreements are very clear on the performance metrics that they have to meet before they can come to you and request that authorization of draws. And similarly, those are payable from 75% of the tax increment collected in that allocation area. And then the next page is illustrating the revenue coverage over those debt obligations. And because of their structure, we do have actual amortization schedules in the report, but they're more based on the available revenues as they come in. So we expect these will actually get paid down before their final maturity. Moving on, we're getting close to the end. Daleville, which is another one of your legacy allocation areas, you are actually capturing homestead residential in this allocation area. It expires in 2040 following the final maturity of the 2015 bonds, though you did amend this back in 2017 to expand it and actually captures a little bit of Chesterfield. I remember that was interesting. You have about $2.8 or $2.78 million of outstanding principal remaining on the 2015 bonds. They're payable solely from Daleville TIF revenues. So again, no other county funds exposed in that security stack. They mature in 2040. You do have the ability to redeem them early, but they are held by STAR, and they have similar call provisions to what I described for PRL. One thing to note too, if you were to pay the 2015 bonds off early, legal counsel has provided us with interpretations that would extinguish the allocation area at that time. So it's in your interest to keep it outstanding from that perspective.
Because you lose the homestead residential,
Because you would lose the ability to capture revenue in that allocation area. Period. The county also pledged, and this was back in 2020, 2021, pledged TIF from this allocation area to the town of Daleville to help with the town of Daleville's funding of a new town hall and police station. So that's a BOT, build, operate, transfer financing. You have about $3.9 million left outstanding on that obligation. That is technically an obligation of the town of Daleville, but it is payable from that pledge that this body made of those TIF revenues, and it was also ratified by the county commissioners to the repayment of that obligation. And then also, that matures in 2040. And then also, the Redevelopment Commission has pledged $112,933 annually to the Delaware County Regional Wastewater District through 2032. And what that has done is brought down the rates for the ratepayers in that area. And I would have to defer to my utilities colleagues on any nuance on the rates there. Daleville, last year we estimated $934,000 revenues. You actually collected about $1 million. There were some delinquencies from 2023 that got caught up last year. This year we're estimating about $918,000 of revenues. You're obligated $627,000 for those three obligations, so that leaves you with $291,000 that you can use for other projects. And the next page is a listing of the various projects that have been outlined historically. And then we have that graphic illustration. I think that's all of the debt obligated allocation areas, so this should go a little faster to close out. Next up is the Daleville 2 allocation area. That was established in 2020. It expires 25 years, but it hasn't been obligated, so no expiration date as of yet. Last year estimated about $34,000, you collected $33,000. There's been additional development in that area, so this year we're actually estimating you're going to capture about $88,000. Next up was the Forza allocation area, which was established in 2020 on the outskirts of Daleville. And this was meant to incentivize a multifamily housing development in the allocation area. That development never came to fruition, so you're not capturing anything, you have no obligations, it's just. Next up is the BioVision Ag Park. That was established in 2006. There are no obligations. Historically, this has been the last 7 or 8 years, the Redevelopment Commission has elected annually just pass through 100% of the incremental assessed value to the overlapping taxing units. You haven't wanted to terminate the allocation area, which is your right. If there's no obligations, you could certainly terminate it because there's still the potential that that area could develop, and in that way, it's already in existence. You only have 11 years left on the clock for that. Bell Perch, which is on the outskirts of Albany. That was established in 2009 for the Bell Aquaculture Project. You did issue bonds in 2013, but those were fully repaid in 2023, so there are no obligations outstanding at this time. It has a 30-year life, so it's in existence through 2039. There are different general projects out in that allocation area, and I know that there's a project looking out there as well. Last year, we estimated $52,000 in increment. You collected right on top of estimates. This year, we're estimating about $58,000. Next up is the 6928 Gaston allocation area. That was established in 2017. There has not been any development activity out in that geography since its establishment. So you're not collecting any, well, actually you collected $1 last year, basically software rounding. Not estimating you'll collect anything this year. And you've got projects that are proposed, but there hasn't been any development. And then I believe this is the final one, the East State Road 32 allocation area, which is one of your newest. This was established East State Road 32. This is the first year you're really collecting any increment. Well, actually you collected increment last year. You have several proposed projects. Last year, we had estimated you collect $15,000, you collected $4,200. This year, we're estimating you would collect $20,000. So that's another one. This Redevelopment Commission has historically taken some actions to designate some geography to get out in front of future development, and some of it just hasn't hit yet. It's really your prerogative on an annual basis whether or not you want to maintain those if you see the development opportunities, or as long as you don't have debt obligated from any from the allocation area, you also have the ability to terminate the allocation area if you see fit.
Or we could pass through the revenues.
Or you can pass through the revenues to the overlapping taxing units if you are collecting revenues. Yeah, that's another option that you have. And again, that determination is made by June 15th of each year. There's a lot of information in here, I understand that, and you just saw it this morning. As you review on your own, always happy to answer any questions that you may have. Sometimes we need to punt to the attorneys, and we appreciate their support in that regard. But our contact information is in here. Call, email. Always happy to schedule time on Teams. You can even pop up here, or if you want to come visit us in our office. We've got new offices in December. They're nice. You're welcome to come down, but always willing to answer questions. I know Commissioner Brand, we've had some conversations already on some of these. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
Do you have updated maps?
I know we're, who's Kyle?
Kyle Jones.
I think that they're getting pretty up to date. It's just, I don't have the ability to really print them in a clean way.
Okay.
But it's my understanding that he has the information that he's got them updated in the GIS.
Okay.
So I would defer to him for getting it printed in a way that's presentable.
Do you want printed copies?
I would appreciate PDFs for reference.
PDFs?
Yeah. And I know we've got some of those. You had sent me some of them, but I don't think that was the complete set.
I don't believe so either.
Sometimes he can send a link out too that they can access.
I think it's a GIS layer too that you can see on
Yeah,
Beacon.
you can GIS it, but the PDFs are nice too.
Getting the more focus. Historically, we had, and then we came to the realization that they were just old maps because we used to include them in this report, and we had just struggled to get good, up-to-date, quality versions that were worth printing and including in the reports.
Any other question?
Is Creed still a thing? Can we establish a new Creed zone?
You have to get authorization from the state, and I don't know the last time the state authorized the establishment of a creed. We pitched it in some other communities and then politely declined. There's a similar tool out there that's a certified technology park. Similarly, I don't know the last time one of those was authorized. You know, the state has its innovation development districts, and those operate a lot like a creed. But those are for mega projects. They've only established one of those today. That's LEAP over on the north side of Lebanon. I do know that there's a bill that's out in the General Assembly that would give regional organizations the ability to designate innovation development districts within certain bounds. And there's also a parallel effort to give some municipalities the ability to designate those. It's something that I've suggested gently to legislators historically. That'd be great if you could have that tool because it's a powerful tool, and TIF isn't always enough to get the job done. So we'll continue to keep you appraised as that information evolves with the legislative session.
Any other legislation that you see impacting what we're doing in Delaware County?
Senate Bill 1.
Yeah.
And that's the biggie. I know that, well, I didn't read the news articles this morning, but I know Chairman Thompson had expressed publicly his plan to amend his House Bill 1402 into the Senate Bill 1 that had passed out of the Senate. That will phase out personal property assessments in Indiana, and that affects TIF bonds that you have out there. So that's
the homestead residential,
And-
only the legacy ones.
Yeah, exactly. It'll affect that. But see, one of the other elements of that is as you shrink the tax base from losing the personal property assessed value, from increased homestead deductions, from additional deductions on 2% property, which is rental residential and farm ground, that decrease in the tax base, your levies are going to stay the same. So you're going to need higher tax rates. So that could have a revenue positive effect on some of your TIF areas for real property. Though there's been discussion of neutralizing that so you're revenue neutral. But then what that's going to do from a county perspective is that's going to push up your circuit breaker losses for the county, for the city of Muncie. So that's something to keep an eye on. And as the legislative session continues, that's something we're watching very closely. Tracy and I were just talking about, we both sit on the legislative committee for the Indiana Economic Development Association, so I'm watching that. We're very closely plugged in with AIM, the Cities and Towns Organization, and also the Association of Indiana Counties. So we're keeping a very close eye because it's going to have impacts in whatever final form it has on every local government client that we have in Indiana, and Delaware County is no exception. So as we learn more about what that's going to look like, and we have the ability to run an analysis, we'll certainly be communicating with you so you can stay on top of things.
Well, thank you so much for coming down. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being informed as always. Any other questions from anyone? Yes. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving to number 6 on the agenda, the Daleville Shell Building Ready Grant 1.0. East Central Indiana. I saw your.
Good morning, distinguished members of the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission. My name is Trevor Friedberg, and if it's amenable, I'm going to take this update on behalf of Caitlin Hancock this morning. So I just want to make sure that that change is noted. I wanted to just, to bring this forward, talk a little bit about it. I'm gonna just kind of go through some of the background on this particular project and just make sure everyone's on the same page here. So, this is related to the Ready One allocation that was made for this particular project. So going back to June of 2022, the Central Indiana Regional Partnership entered into an agreement with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation for a $15 million grant to support regional projects related to quality of life, quality of place, quality of opportunity projects. And one of the projects that was selected out of our regional portfolio was to support the Salem Township Shovel Ready Site Initiative, as we've been calling it internally at my organization and with the state. And that was an award of $250,000. And the project was related to infrastructure for water and wastewater treatment on a 6.54 acre site in Salem Township to spur private development and economic activity. We were working very closely with Brad Bookout through this project and on this initiative. And in December of just last year, we did receive all necessary documentation for the compliance for the project, including the photos and proof of work being completed. And we are able to process the disbursement in the amount of $84,638.98. However, in order to process this payment, we still need a signed agreement and a W-9 from the entity with which we will be contracting. Now, a question came up. We were under the impression that we would be working with the town of Daleville, and they would be the actual recipient of these dollars directly. But after connecting with the town, they indicated that the Redevelopment Commission would be handling this and asked us to present to this body. So essentially, we just want to get clarification on this too, if this is something that we need to enter into an agreement with the Redevelopment Commission, or if we should be working directly with the town of Daleville on this. I'm happy to provide additional context as necessary, but just wanted to kind of give that brief background.
And I'll add in, this was a project Brad was working on, so when the claims come in for the shell building, they're usually processed by your board. My understanding is, with the exception of this $84,000 will be paid directly by you guys once the agreement is signed. The agreement is in your packet. I've gone through that. I only made a change to page 15, I think it is, and it's just the contact information. I updated that to Amber, and then I put a CC for legal counsel on there. That's the only change I made to it, but I did go through that. So there are 2 other claims associated with the shell building that are on your claims for today. So my opinion is this is processed and dealt with through this board as the Delaware has indicated to them. And I think Caitlin and I have emailed and that's my understanding. So I have the W-9 ready for them and the agreement ready to be signed if you guys are all on board with that, but that's what I know about it.
So you believe this is the responsibility of the DRC, not the town of Daleville?
That is what, so far, everything that has been processed with the shell building, it was an economic development project for this board, yes. And historically, I think everything so far has been paid through this board. I don't think Delville has paid anything related to the sewer and water extension. I think it's all been processed through us, is my understanding.
I think you're correct.
And we paid for that stuff out of TIF.
Correct. No. Art.
Well, I see art, $270,000. And then there's some county-owned land, value of $249,000. The other testimony, $600,000. $249,600 for 8.32 acres. It's probably grand, I think.
This is not the shell building property, this is the adjacent property owned by the county commissioners.
It's backed by the shell building.
Oh,
But
it's
the-
the
Adjacent
land
to the
between
shell
the shell building and I-69.
Yes.
But the ARP it comes out of is the shell building ARP.
This is money from the IEDC passed through the Trevor's organization, moved around a bit, and then passed through here and then pass through to Daleville.
Correct. Brad was just able to capture that portion of the project through the Ready grant. The rest of it came from ARP.
So we're essentially passing it back to Daleville because of W9 and our history with the Shell building.
Right.
So did your organization prepare this, or is this a boilerplate from IEDC?
We ended up preparing it, but it is, if you look through it, it's almost exactly the same agreement that we received from the IEDC. Just for some context, this is the same agreement that every project for Ready 1 has entered into.
So if we were to go to current, how the governor's currently running the state, we would need to strike .18 on page 14.
Rob, can you speak up, please?
Yeah, based on governor's executive orders, we would need to strike .18 on page 14, it would appear.
Yeah, we can do that. We can get that updated. Not an issue.
I can have Amber initial it.
I had a question with number 23 on page 16. Is that essentially stating that any press releases have to go through your organization as opposed to going through ours?
Yeah, and this was something that, again, trying to keep it consistent with the state's agreement, we're required with any press releases that we make that we work with their marketing team before anything gets out. And this was just to make sure that they're aware of it. I know that it may seem restrictive, but we're very amenable. We want to work with the groups and we want to get the good news out.
Okay, thank you. What's the opinion of the board?
You want a motion to approve? Is that what you want?
I'm okay with that.
A motion to approve with
Second.
which number struck?
18.
Number 18.
Number 18 struck.
And that's to be in compliance with the governor's stuff.
Correct.
Rob, you.
Second.
Peasley,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Batters,
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
And I'll submit that W-9 with this agreement, and I've got a signature folder. Please don't leave today without signing.
Yeah.
I really-
Anybody? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7, the Muncie Make My Move interlocal agreement. Mayor Ridenhour.
Yes, good morning. I just need to confirm you do have the agreement and the map.
We do, yes.
Okay. I do have, if it's all right, I'd like to approach and just ask, just some additional details so that you're familiar with what this program is. So Muncie is part of the, from the beginning, we've been part of the Make My Move program, which essentially is what it does is we recruit people to keep their jobs that are remote workers and move to our community. And we've had some pretty good success. It is an economic development method. The average wages, it says on here 2.5 to 3. We're finding that this is from the state IEDC. Originally, we found that it's not quite that high, but it's much more than our average income. It's a much lower investment and a higher return. It's very targeted and precise. Rural communities can participate. And it does help with population growth and workforce, because the average moving family it's been about 1.4 people on top of the person who's moved. Many of those spouses have gone to work either for the hospital or Ball State or other entities. So we've had some good success. So the second page, I can get one here. The second page goes through some of our
That one needs to stay open. Thank you, though.
some of our actual results. So in 22, we had 27 movers. The average income was about $89,000 for the movers. There's additional spousal and or partner incomes that come into play, but the average mover was 89,000. Had an economic impact for us of 1.9 million. Year two in 2023, 86% of those 22 movers stayed in our community, which is important. We had 22 new movers in 23. Those new movers had a $1.5 million impact, and the ones who were still here were still receiving income and contributed 1.6 million economic impact to our community. That gave a total for that year of 3.18 because those people were still here. In 24, we again had about 86% of the people who were already here in those first 2 years stayed in our community. Now, I will admit some moved, there were some who stayed in our Delaware County area, but they maybe moved out of Muncie and into another area. There were some that, so there was moving, but they were still in our area. We had 29 new movers. The economic impact for those new movers is about 2 million, and then when you count all those people who moved in 22 and 23 and subtracted the ones that moved away, it's about 2.7 there, so 4.78 million was the economic impact. Total economic impact through this program for Muncie has been $9.8 million. And we do pay an administrative fee. We pay for the program, we pay Make My Move for some marketing, but the return on this is huge, and there's zero debt. And so that's how that works. Now, the way, as you see the agreement, what I want the county to do, or this redevelopment commission to do, is what I would like to do, and if you take this map, just for others, we cannot do a program that covers some of the other communities because it's the Muncie Make My Move. If you were going to do your own Make My Move, you'd have to pay all those administrative fees, and it's a couple $100,000 to participate. But I knew that there were properties that have Muncie, Indiana addresses in 47302, 47303, and 47304. So I reached out to the commissioners. We had a brief meeting about how this program works, and I would like to make this program available to you because currently, if somebody does not live in the city limits, we have to turn them down. What we would like to do, and I got permission from Make My Move, and so they're aware of this, we would like to make it available to those that are in these colored areas. So other parts of the county that have Muncie addresses can participate. Currently, we turn them down. There haven't been that many, but that's because they knew we only could cover the city of Muncie. I said, I can't spend the money outside of the city of Muncie to pay the commissions for people to move here. So there's two parts to it. There's a commission that we pay to Make My Move, and then there's money that goes actually as an incentive to the person who moves here. So they get paid to move here. Now, they don't get paid till after they've moved. You get verification. We don't do that, Make My Move does. But they have moved here. We either have, we have documentation that shows they move here. I would like to make this available if the Redevelopment Commission was willing to pay the $5,000. And you would pay that to, and legal help put this together, you would pay that to the city of Muncie. We'll deal with Make My Move. And we will invoice you if somebody moves and they're not in our city limits. The reason I know it's still good for the city of Muncie is because they're going to go to the city of Muncie to use services, for restaurants, for entertainment. We will benefit. That's part of that economic benefit. But I also I don't want somebody for us to say, no, you can't move there with this program, and then they pick another city, because Make My Move will have them picking between 2 or 3 cities. This just allows me other homes, other school systems, other opportunities for people who maybe don't want to live in the city or want to be in a smaller area. I mean, some of this is rural. And I just view this as a good way for the city and the county to collaborate on something that has been very successful for the city. We felt it was an economic development piece, and that's why we brought it here to the Redevelopment Commission. So I would love to see you say yes, and then we can tell Make My Move, They will make these other areas available in their conversations with people, and then helps us compete with Columbus and Lafayette and Noblesville and some of the other communities that are pretty active in this program.
So
So that's the purpose.
So if someone wants to move near Prairie Creek, which is a city-managed park, which is not in the city limits, but it's a great asset. They come through this program where you're taking all the administrative costs. We're doing the reimbursement. That person still moves here, and it's for the greater good of really the entire county. Like they're still contributing. I make the motion we move forward with this.
I'll second that motion.
Question, we have some tip areas that are close to 303, 302. What about 304? That still be appropriate, Danielle?
Maybe the
We
Nebo
we have
part.
Nebo, we have Morrison. Morrison has more than Nebo does.
Yeah, I was thinking about Morrison. That'd be appropriate, do you think it'd be all right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
And I've got motion by you, second by Goddard. So I've got Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Breen.
Yep.
Ms. Goddard,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
I'll be abstaining, given my position with the city.
And I think I sent you guys the most up-to-date version of that interlocal agreement. I worked with the city. We had a couple corrections that went back and forth, and everything looked good to go.
I would, lastly, if I could, I would like to do some type of release, a joint release with city, county, or with city and redevelopment commission, however, as a show of support and collaboration and efforts to grow our community.
Agreed.
Okay, so who do I communicate that to? Amber?
Makes the most sense to you, sir, doesn't it?
Okay, that'll be pretty easy then. That'll be pretty easy.
Maybe quote one of the commissioners.
We will get it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I added it in.
Okay.
Bill, or,
No.
are you talking
At the
about?
interlocal.
Oh, because you signed it, yeah. And just for clarity, because of Ms. Green abstaining, this one is signed by Ms. Batters as vice president.
That's right, that's good.
Just to clarify in case it was.
Good idea.
All right, moving on.
I do that. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Number 8, Mundell and Associates. Are you good?
Good morning, commission members. My name is John Mundell. I'm president and senior consultant at Mundell. I've got Rick Johnstone here with me, who's a senior project engineer for Mundell. We've both been involved in work with the Delaware County Economic Redevelopment Commission this last 5 years. And so we've been asked to give a very brief kind of update of what we've been doing. I think we have a couple of new members that may not be aware of what we've done over the last 5 years. So just briefly too, Mundell is an environmental consulting firm that has dealt with investigations and remediation of contaminated sites, evaluation of health risk for different kinds of industries, and community work. And part of the work we've been doing in Indiana, well, this is our 30th year in business, and we have small clients and large clients. The city of Indianapolis, Eli Lilly, to count some of the bigger clients, but we also have a lot of the small communities around Indiana and beyond. And so we wanted to just give you this brief report and just remind you kind of the unique kind of program you have here with us, because we don't know of any other county that has a program that enables us to support you in your redevelopment efforts by doing reviews for any kind of new industries coming in, how they might be impacted by the permitting and environmental regulations in Indiana. And then at the same time, provide a review of their operations so that your actual local community can feel like this is a good business, that you're being protective of human health and the environment for your county. So we're just going to give you a little bit of an overview of what we've done, a couple of the projects to let you know, and then we'll answer questions. So Luke, go ahead and you can.
Yeah, thanks, John, and thanks for having us. We brought slides, but we'll just keep with the paper copies. Yeah, so we're here to support you, to support your efforts to promote development in an environmentally responsible manner. And the way we do that is we just help keep you, keep the community, keep fellow industrial sites informed of all the environmental matters in the area. And it's really a win-win for all the parties, county, you, the citizens, the community, and even the fellow industrial sites. So that's the purpose, that's what we're here for, to support you. And the scope of what we've been doing at your request, when there's incoming industries, we provide an initial screening, just to kind of get a sense for, okay, what are they operating with any chemicals? What are the concerns? Do they have controls? And highlight those for you so that you're aware. And then we also, when industries are coming in from out of country, out of state, maybe they're not familiar with the environmental permitting needs here in the state. So we're that initial contact point with them, help point them in the right direction. Oh, you're doing this, you might need the air permit, or you might need this, and get them set in the right direction. And then if they do have environmental permitting needs, we review some of their permits and maybe have some comments, but it helps us just understand what they're doing, what potential pollution they might have, but then what controls they have, and make sure their documents all in order so we can inform you, they have the right controls, they're doing a good job, that kind of thing. And then the last thing is sometimes when these industries come in, the community might have questions, or you might have questions or concerns, and so we provide that third-party technical expert, kind of we can weigh in and say, okay, yeah, we recognize your concerns, but it's okay because of X, Y, and Z, or maybe it promises to look further. We've been doing this since 2020. Some industries we've been looked at are Inox, Clearline, Canpack, SRM, Concrete, and Biotechnic is a new one here. We're just starting still. I'll provide two examples here of kind of just give you an example of what we've done with the oversight work. So the first one is Canpack. Again, we had initial screening. We had 2 summary memos issued to Brad and through Brad to you all, just to say, hey, these are the chemicals they're working with. Again, their issue was with their process, they had a lot of potential air emissions. But we said, hey, they have these massive control devices that help reduce those pollutants so that they shouldn't be emitting pollutants into the neighborhood. So that was good. And then we helped review their permitting process, and we even commented in the public comment period. We commented just to provide, they weren't extensive comments, just to say, hey, check this, check that, make sure they had all their paperwork in order, help us make sure we understood what they were doing. And then it also showed the community that the county is paying attention and aware and cares enough to keep track of what, the companies that are coming in. And in general, they had all of their paperwork in order, and it looked real good. The second example is Clearline. Again, initial advisory memo. So, okay, this is what they're doing. They're taking recycled tires, molding them into, supports for HVAC equipment, or the curb stops for parking lots. And this one, the county, the community did have some concerns with this industry coming in, with the odors and the potential for fumes coming from their process with the molding and also the tire crumbs. So we issued a letter to the community there to say, we recognize your concerns. This is why it's okay because of X, Y, and Z in that case. That was the kind of standard scope of what we do. With Clearline, we were asked by you all to go a little more involved in what we normally do and what we have since. But Clearline, it was their first time. They're coming from Canada, first time operated in the country. So we kind of helped get them set up in the right, help with their initial permitting and process. And they had an air permit, and they needed we talked with IDEM, and IDEM said you need a solid waste processing permit. which is for like landfills. And Clearline was like, whoa, we're not like a landfill, we're just taking this entire ground and molding it and selling it. And IDEM said, no, you need the solid waste permit, and it's a lengthy, takes a year long, there's lots of requirements. So we looked into it further and we said, no, actually, they're exempt because of X, Y, and Z. And there was some back and forth, and finally IDEM agreed with us and said, okay, you're right. They don't need this big permit, there's this lesser permit, and it was kind of a win-win. It was fair to Clearline, but it still had the required permitting to keep track. So it was good for all parties involved. All right, that's some examples of the oversight. I'll take a step back here and talk about the South Muncie Industrial Center investigation we did, which was our first initial project with you all. It started back in 2020. And it's different than the oversight work we do, but it does kind of tie in at the end of it all. So let me just have a couple slides here to tell you about that. So it started in 2020. It was in response to concerns of the citizens. They were concerned about the South Muncie Industrial Center, that there was contamination from all of the industry, contaminating the communities all around. So the citizens had heard about our work down in Franklin, Indiana with the community there, which there was some contamination that had got looked over and affected the communities there. We were the technical expert helping out that community. So the citizens heard about us, and so we got connected with you all. So we looked at the South Muncie Industrial Center and we split it up into two phases. The first was just taking stock of all of the companies in the area. And we were focused more so on, is there any contamination affecting the communities, right? So we took stock inventory of, here's all the industries, here's all the history. If there's going to be contamination, this is where to look. Here, and here. So we had those plans. And then in phase 2, we executed many of the sampling plans, gathered all this data, and then evaluated it. So the upshot, in summary of our findings, was that we didn't find any evidence of widespread heavy metal contamination around the area in the community. So that was good news above the screening levels. That was really good news. There are a couple of key findings from all of that work was we did recognize that there were two issues that are, they apply to communities all across the country that are also relevant here. One is in urban cities with the history of industry, they have a tendency to have an elevated lead levels in their superficial soil. That was present here. They were elevated, mostly below the screening levels, but elevated. And then the second thing, when we were sampling the wells, some of these homes, we found that there was a tendency to have high lead levels in their well water. And that's a growing awareness in the scientific community. This is private residential wells, they're not regulated, and they don't necessarily realize that they need to, the lead's leaching out from the pumps that are 30 years old, or the pipes that are 40 years old. So we took this as an opportunity we recommended and worked with you all to put together a website, a story map, and it's education for the community. Education for, okay, if you live in an urban environment, here's what you can do to limit your lead exposure in the soil. And if you have a private well, here's what you can do to limit your exposure to lead in your private well. And also provided all of our reports. So it was just a good informational hub. That was the South Muncie Industrial Center. Again, we were focused more on the surrounding area. We also recognized there were a few remediation sites within the industrial center that were ongoing. So we recommended, hey, it could be good to keep an eye on the contamination that's there, just to make sure that it's going, it's cleaning up the right way. So that leads us into our last slide here. We have two projects that we've done existing monitoring. One is with Garfield Exide. They have groundwater lead plume, and they have ongoing hazardous waste leaking in their facility, and it's been ongoing for many years now. There seems to be, so we were asked to look into it, take stock of the situation, and it seems to be that they've been very slow to clean these up and follow up with what's been mandated by the state. So we were asked by you all to contact IDEM, reach out and say, hey, what's going on? Is there anything we can do to help make this happen a little quicker? And eventually we drafted a letter that was sent out by the commissioners to IDEM to say, hey, counties here, we're aware of this contamination, that they're being slow to respond to these agreed orders. Is there anything we can do to help? So that's our current with Garfield, is just keeping a quarterly update. It's very, it's just a update, so it's just a 1-2 page memo, but just keeping track of that. And we can reach out, happy to reach out again if we need. And the last one, Progressive Rail, they had contamination. They had a remediation work plan. We were asked to just submit comments on the public comment period. They weren't too intensive, just hey, have you thought about this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Again, it just shows the community, the county, that you all care about what's going on, and that you care that people are cleaning up after themselves and doing the right thing. Anyways, that's the oversight of the oversight, and then the existing monitoring. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any or comments or anything. But we left our cards with you there. If you need to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is just a presentation.
Just to follow up a little bit, I think it was 2020 when we started getting complaints about industrial park and the neighborhoods around that park. People were complaining about possibility of some contamination here and there. So we did hire Mundell, and Brad did it, and it did help those people in the county, gave them peace of mind that we did have somebody on the ground that was monitoring that situation.
Yeah, they brought that study to us as a commission last year and
Yes,
gave us the
that
report.
worked out good though. I mean, it made the public feel good about having someone out there.
So this story map and website, is there a link on our county website to this? Where does this story map and website exist?
It's hosted by, we host it. I know there's a link on the East Indiana Redevelopment, that website. I'm not sure if there's a link on
The county website. So I think we need to put it on there so our local citizens,
Add this to your board's website.
yeah, please.
Okay.
That's Kyle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 9, Park 1 second entrance, American Structure Point. Hi.
Good morning, I'm Jamie Stutzel with American Structure Point. The Park 1 second entrance, we've been working with NDOT to get permit approval. I'm still waiting on permit approval. We had movement started back in August, September with NDOT, received comments, addressed those comments. We subsequently received some additional comments and revised those comments in late January, early February. And I have reached out to NDOT again this week, asking them the status of that. I believe we have addressed everything we need in order to get that permit issued from NDOT and to be able to move forward with the bid process to get that development going. My hope is that we can have that here shortly, get bids out in April, and come back to the board in May to approve those bids, or approve the low bidder. So that is the current status of the project. If you guys have any questions, feel free to answer those.
Did the state give you an update
They
when
have
you
not
asked
given-
one?
They have not given me an update from the last one. I got a question from someone on Tuesday asking about some Yorktown annexation and if Yorktown was aware of the project. I informed them that Yorktown is aware of the project, that we've been working with them on sewer and water relocation work. So they are very aware of the project, and that should not be an issue to move this forward. So as soon as I have an update, I will report that back to the commission.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? 10, go.
I was gonna say, Madam President, if he has like a routine update like that, can we just have an email from him if it's pretty germane? Is that okay for the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm absolutely okay with that.
Yeah, with each of our invoices, we also provide a very brief update that can be provided to the commission, and I can make sure that Danielle has that to pass along to everyone as well.
Thank you. Number 10, Well Path Recovery Solutions, Economic Development Agreement, Corey McConnell.
Good morning. Thank you so much for our audience today, Redevelopment Commission. I am Corey McConnell. I'm the Senior Director of Partnership Development for Recovery Solutions. And as a lifelong resident of East Central Indiana, it's my pleasure to have advocated and been a part of the process to help Recovery Solutions partner with the county to help establish the regional mental health facility. That'll be at 3100 Tilson Avenue near the Justice Center. It's going to be a 40-bed facility, and it will be co-ed, 20 male, 20 female. There's 2 sides to the facility. It's an ASAM 3.5 level facility, and we're going to be looking to you all to help us with the onset of hiring and training new workforce to come to the county. Professionals, including nurses, psychiatrists, physicians, as skilled and unskilled labor as well. We're planning on bringing 33 jobs immediately to the county, and then over the, probably within the first year, we'll have 55 and help jobs, 55 full-time and part-time as well. I submitted the agreement to John. Was that distributed to the board?
Yesterday? Okay, I didn't know that. So John had to travel up north. I was waiting on a final version to come back, and I did not see that it did. So we can get that to you guys. I assumed today was just going to be an update since I hadn't seen the final version. They had gone back and forth. And just to give a little bit of a background too, so a lot of the mental health facility is going to be paid through ARP dollars, but there are certain things that John came up with the idea of if we came to an economic development agreement, there are items such as the employees, the training, that it is an economic development. They're bringing jobs to the county, and maybe if some of the funds could come from the TIF, then the ARP dollars could be spread further to help that project. And so that's what started this conversation, just to give a background. Commissioner Henry was involved in all of these conversations over the last year and a half. We've been talking about 2.5 years. So, so this is an ongoing discussion that has been in the process between the commissioners. Brad was involved in some of these conversations, but we're just now at the point where we're needing to start looking at how we're going to fund that labor force and the training of them. The facility is coming along, and so that's why this is coming at this point to this commission. Mostly wanted to get that idea in front of you. Now that I know we have a final draft, I'll get that to you as soon as John gets back today. And
I can work it to you as well.
yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. If you guys have any questions, we certainly can go through those and get this. I'll keep this on the agenda for next month. But I wanted to make sure I didn't take it off when I didn't have the final document yet, because I wanted to still get the information to you, start making sure we had questions answered, and make sure that he could get his presentation to you guys and keep moving this forward, since the facility's coming along quickly. So
Is there an operating agreement or an operating plan for this facility?
There is.
Okay. Can you send it? I don't know if Daniel has a copy of that, but I'd like to see that. And then I understand the commissioners signed a new contract November 14th last year with Recovery Solutions WellPath. So I see that. I'm very interested to understand the long-term operating plan for this facility. Our funds only last so long. And I believe we were in a meeting where we're gonna make in this operating agreement somewhere around $1,300 a day that is gonna be paid to WellPath. And I just don't understand the long-term operating agreement. I don't know how this thing works.
Sure, absolutely. We can provide that and meet separately as well to go over it in detail. Long-term, we will be certified by the state through DMHA, and part of the process of staffing is staffing and equipping the facility so that it can be certified, so that we can draw down recovery works funds from the state, from DMHA to help support operation. And additionally, with the 40-bed facility, there's a great need in all the surrounding counties and across the state, and as the first regional mental health facility of its kind in Indiana, we'll be able to collaborate with some of those other county partners to fund that daily operation, those beds as well.
So the 33 initial new jobs are essentially county contracted, like there's a contract with the county. So these are, I guess another way to put it, they're kind of government jobs. Like it's a county contract that we create.
Would they be county employees
No,
or
they're
would
not.
they be
County employees,
WellPath?
but
They would be recovery solutions.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's paid through the county to operate.
some possibly.
And then when you say long-term, I'm just kind of curious, you mean like 1 year, 5 years, or?
How long do you get certified with the state?
Certified with the state would be within the first 6 months.
Do you have a general idea of the dollar figure with the EDA that you could share with us? I know you're going to be sending it, but.
Yeah, absolutely. It's $516,309.
Thank you.
And the initial 33 jobs that are created, it's $294,357 of that dollars is for the job. The training, orientation, and job creation.
So just for the training and orientation, nothing past that?
Recruiting, correct. It equates to roughly 87, 86, 78 for full-time job.
Thank you.
So we need a motion to table this.
Yes.
Make a motion to table.
Second.
Roll call, please.
1 second, let me write in here. And as I was looking, just so you know, that area is still in the industrial zone. So if this is approved, that's where that would come from. Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brain,
Yes.
Ms. Batters,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome, thank you. Number 11, Westell request for assistance. Hi, Carrie.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
What I come here for today is, I talked a little bit last week about the changes of our board members. We had a special meeting, we voted 3-0 to move forward to apply for the forgivable loan for the feasibility study. We do need some updated information on that. Commonwealth will be making the application. So basically today, I'm just here to make that request that the redevelopment can pay for that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Not to exceed 10,000, that's yours.
I don't know,
Yeah.
well, the only problem I would have with that is I don't know what the dollar would be, but that's what's been indicated to us.
Gotcha.
So I
So,
don't have the authority to turn around and say, yes, we will pay for the remaining balance of that.
let me chime in just a little bit. So I do have those figures and I went ahead, typically when you guys approve something, we come back at the next meeting with your resolution. In your packet, you do already have a resolution for this request from Westell Schools. And the reason for that is because this application has to be submitted by March 31st. We are working with Westel and Carrie very closely in my role for you guys, but also in my role for the Delaware County Regional Wastewater District. I have worked with Commonwealth and Rob. We have been in touch every few days about this. So he has given me the quote of not to exceed 10,000 to update the PER. He is moving along and has made a lot of headway already, knowing that this is likely going to be a favorable project, so that he does not get into a situation where he can't get the information done in time to submit the application. And just so you guys are aware of how this is going to work, because we are at the mercy of SRF, when these applications are submitted, and Commissioner Brand understands this in his past role with MSD, that they grade our applications based on a criteria of what they're looking for. Regionalization is one thing, so they like to see smaller plants decommissioned, and that's one thing that this proposal has the ability to do, is potentially decommission the Westel plants. But when you're submitting these applications and you're being graded, it matters who submits the application. And so they look to who is the person that benefits in the end. Well, in this situation, Westel benefits because they potentially could be decommissioning their plant and not having to be in the business of sewer treatment. DCRWD benefits because they would be the ultimate recipient of the lines. Gaston could benefit because they would then be able to process and charge fees to DCRWD to process the sewer. So you really have three different entities that could make the application for the funding. So I suggested to Rob that he have a meeting with SRF to find out what would they prefer that would maybe grade our application a little bit higher and give Westel the best benefit. They wanted DCRWD to make the application. So I found that out actually about an hour before our board meeting last week. DCRWD went ahead and made the motion to approve submitting that application for Westel. Because if SRF wants it to be that way, then that's the way it's going to be. What we can do then after that application is graded and we find out early summer what the result is going to be, we can then transfer to Westel that project and that borrowing. So we can transfer who the borrower is if it is feasible, if there is enough forgiveness, and if Westel says, hey, this is a project we think we might be able to move forward on, then we can turn it over to them. We would just be the ones making the application, and by we, I'm using my DCRWD hat. So that's kind of a little bit of the backstory of what Carrie and Commonwealth and Bill Walters and myself have been working on the last couple of weeks on this to try to help Westel move this project along and try to remedy the problem that they're having with their septic. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's the background. It is not going to cost over $10,000 to update the PER. If you guys approve, the resolution is ready for signature today so that I can ensure Commonwealth that we are good to go. Do you have anything to add?
The thing that we're working on right now, and we're gonna receive more bids, is the relining of the sewage lines that's underneath the high school. So that is separate from the sewage treatment facility that we currently have. And this is a part that needs to be done. So this will probably end up being a summertime project. And this will give us a better idea of the flow that goes through what we would be sending to Gaston.
And they still have to do that because they're under orders. Well, I don't know if you're under an order, but they're working with IDEM to work on that in the inlining of those. So that's separate and aside from the potential project with DCRWD and Gaston.
And that's a bid project that we're anticipating somewhere around 200,000. It could be more, could be a bit less, but somewhere in that general area.
Comments,
No,
questions?
I don't have any. I mean, this is something we've worked on for quite some time now.
Yeah. So we worked on it before, spent some money before, we're gonna spend 10,000, which I support. And just to be clear, this is to avoid rebuilding the waste treatment
This is
facility
what
at
I'd like to
Westdale
see as a board member.
going to Gaston.
Going to Gaston, yes, currently on our table, so that way you know, the prior administration, now before I got on board, they're looking at a sewage treatment facility. That's what's on the table right now. I would like to see it go to the sewage line. But the biggest thing is gonna be is funding. So if we don't do this here application, then I would say for the most part, that would be us going to the other direction, which I do not want to do.
So I would just like to put it on the record that if this does get funded or bonded, that there's an opportunity to build these costs, what the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission already spent, and this $10,000 into that bond.
Correct.
So that money can come back to the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission.
Correct.
I support this, I just want to be clear on that.
And 10,000 would come back here. I believe the first portion actually would go to the commissioners. So the commissioners through ARP dollars funded the original, so it would be split, but kind of all in the same pot. But just for clarity, for those that weren't on the board at that time, potentially, the first part of the PER was funded by ARP dollars.
Okay.
Michelle? And just to kind of bounce off what Danielle's saying, I attended the school board meeting last Thursday, and during Rob's presentation, he stated that there will not be we won't go over the 10,000.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-02.
Second.
I heard Brain first.
Beat me.
Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brain.
Yep.
Spatter,
Yes.
and Ms. Green.
Yes.
Board members, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie.
All right, I am going to interrupt the agenda. Unfortunately, this room needs to be rearranged for a meeting at 11 o'clock. So I would,
I would make a motion, we recess for about 10 minutes and move out to the common area of the room. That would give that'll give you enough time to get set up and so I would move that we make a motion, we take a 15-minute recess.
Second.
Rob, did you get that second first?
Yes. So race to get seconds today.
Okay, hang on just one second. Let me get a roll call on that, please, to do a recess. Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand.
Yep.
Ms. Batters,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
yes.
Okay, bear with me. I have a truck.
All right, we're going to call this meeting back to order. It is 11:05 on March 13th. We need to go back into number 11 with the Westdale PDR.
Okay, the second item for you to consider for today on Westdale's matter, you have a general services agreement with Commonwealth from 2015. So for each project that they do for you guys, that agreement still stays in place, but they do a task order for that specific project. So I've also included in your packet the task order from Commonwealth for your approval so that they can finalize that PER. So it goes with the resolution and Carrie's request.
I make a motion, we approve the task order.
Second.
Roll.
Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Ms. Batters,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. Except for number 11, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Number 12, Isaiah 117. Thank you for sticking around. Sorry, Anna.
No, you're good. We are just requesting, to be able to move funds around between the phases. So, we've been working with the community to get different donations, discounts, stuff like that. And looking at like phase one, we're guessing it's gonna be around 20,000, under the 50,000 for that phase. So we're just wanting to be able to move those chunks of money around like, as needed. So if we don't use it all, we can move it to the next one.
So what I did is a proposal after we got the email for your consideration, and this can be modified if you guys would like, but I wanted to have something in front of you based on their request. So I put in the 4 phases that are in the development agreement, but took out the amounts for each phase. So essentially, what the second addendum would be, they'd still have the 200,000, but say she needed the 30,000 for phase 1, and then she's ready to go into phase 2, and she needs 70,000. She can take and present whatever amount for phase 2 that she needs, just knowing she's got up to that $200,000 threshold that is already in the development agreement approved. So it's not giving her any additional money, it's not doing anything other than giving them the flexibility to move within the phases, whatever that is deemed necessary for that phase.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Peasley?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Spatters?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
I think that's enough here. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alright, moving along, number 13, Merchant McIntyre Agreement. Commissioner Brand.
Yeah, so I met with Bill Walters recently. He brought me up to speed on this Merchant McIntyre agreement. So this is basically a group that works in DC. They help us identify federal grant opportunities for which East Central Indiana would be eligible and help keep us competitive. They engage federal agency personnel to try to that have jurisdiction over the funding on behalf of ECI. They build support for the priorities of the grant applications among members of Congress. They support ECI in all facets of the federal grant process, including the writing, preparing, and submitting of the federal grant applications. And they set up meetings for all the entities as necessary. I would only comment to this board that Delaware County pays for this, and this is a regional effort, so there are other counties that benefit from this without contributing. And I asked Bill to look into Grant and Jay to see if their commissioners would help participate. But in general, I support this, but I would like to see the other counties participating financially.
I agree with Commissioner Brand. I had a conversation with Mr. Walters about the potential for other counties to participate since they do benefit, although Delaware County benefits the most. I think it would be helpful to us if those other counties would participate a little bit.
So commissioners, you saying maybe an up to amount, and then if, as Mr. Walters finds additional support from the other counties,
It can come back to
we
us.
can come back to
Yes.
us.
I mean, I think we should approve $80,000 and Bill needs to go to work trying to get support from their commissioners.
And I will, if that is what you desire, I'll do a resolution, but the actual Merchant McIntyre agreement, I had them update it because they had sent over a draft for your signature, but they will actually report to East Central Indiana Regional Planning District. So I had them update their actual contract for Bill's signature because he's the one they will report to and they have the agreement with. But we'll do a resolution for the contribution of the 80,000 for you guys to sign off on the resolution portion of it. So I thought that was the cleanest way to deal with kind of who's reporting to who and who's got the agreement with who on this.
So to be clear, Commissioner Brand, you're looking for a motion to approve the $80,000 and go to the other county commissioners to.
That's my motion.
Second.
I'm gonna do it, Commissioner Henry one. Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Spatters,
I'm going to be abstaining from this due to my employment with ECI.
Ms. Green,
Yes. $14, ECIRPD Agreement for Economic Development Services. Commissioner Brand again.
Yep, so met with Bill on this as well, and commissioners have taken the approach to split up the economic development agreement with the exit of Augusta. Put a responsibility matrix together, which I've socialized with the groups, but basically ECI would be the lead on proactive international outreach economic development, and that's what this proposal is for. Commissioner Henry.
Yeah, in the past, everybody knows our economic development group has went to Washington at least once a year. That trip is already planned. I got flight information yesterday actually about that. So they will be going to Washington here in May, and they will, I imagine there'll be a trip to Italy at some point. But I think ECI would be great for international development since there's already a program in place for that.
And the commissioners, just for clarity, have already approved this agreement. And I wanted to get it on this agenda to make sure that you guys could consider the funding portion, correct? So the agreement is actually signed by the commissioners. But I don't know the amount.
Is this funding the entirety of it?
So the amount, it's set up right now, it's a 24 monthly payments of $10,833.30 payable on invoice, after invoicing at 30 days, beginning January 1st to 25. So it'll be a little bit of retro. They have been working on behalf at the direction of this board. So that's the.
Well, we had talked about in the commissioners meeting, I guess why I said that is there was some money going to be left in edit to contribute, and I didn't know if the full amount is going to come from redevelopment or if there's going to be some coming out of edit. I guess
Not
that's
much left in there.
Okay.
I think right now, I would ask this board
Up to
pay, the $10,833.33 a month. Is what that is, right?
So that's your motion.
That's my motion, and keep in mind too that this group has been doing work on behalf of this board in the absence of our director.
My input here, given that this board is looking to hire an executive director, I want to make sure that there is no overlap. I see that the next thing on our agenda is another economic development proposal that I understand has been tabled through you guys, but I want to be sure that there is no overlap in the services that we're seeking from an economic development director, or seeking from our executive director, between ECI RPD, between DCR, Muncie Delaware County EDA. That's my hesitancy.
I concur. I guess more in line to fill the position and then add with the contractors.
Okay. So if that's the case, I believe we owe ECI money for the work that they've been doing so far. We asked them to work. We asked Brooke Struble, we asked Tracy, and the Muncie Delaware County Economic Development Alliance to help, and they've been doing work. Brooke Struble getting paid, but these other entities are not.
And let me, and maybe this is just a question to this board. I know the job description we took off of the agenda for today, maybe because it's a mile long, but is a project manager moving forward. My understanding at the commissioners meeting is the international contract is to bring in the international and return it over
To
local. So on the international side of it, I understand it likely wouldn't overlap is the way it was presented to me, in that once it gets here, it's turned over to you guys to then manage. Is that
not to us.
to the locals?
Yes, that's correct. Maybe after a month, 2 months.
Get them in here,
Get them here,
set
get them
up.
set, and then it'll be turned over to the local economic development.
And I don't know if that helps your reservation at all. I just wanted to make sure you understood what I understood from the commissioners.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is travel included in this?
It is not. The various expenses not otherwise provided for herein shall be approved by the county prior to expenditure of the item received shall be. So like Select USA, those types of things would be in addition to this. This is, as I understand from talking to the bill, is to fund a couple of additional positions positions to handle the work.
So these are not people currently doing it, but the bill has been doing some work. So we owe, regardless, we owe ECR or PD money for the work they've already done.
Correct.
We need to pay people for the work they've done.
No question.
But there's, it's a almost $11,000 monthly contract with then travel expenditures and other unknowns are pre-approved, will be on top of that. Is that by the commissioners? Or?
The motion made was up to 11,000, correct?
Right, up to 10,833. Although its motion was to approve the amount on your
Right.
contract.
So would the additional expenditures be coming to us in the future above and beyond this?
It says count, so it's not specific.
It won't come.
Not,
How has it happened in the
it's,
past?
it's,
My
it's happened in the past. Brad's contract was paid for by the commissioners. Some funding was used through ECRC as well. So it was both places. Both the commissioners and ECRC.
And now it's being fully funded by DCRC?
There'll be some expenditures that come to the commissioners as well. What we're asking DCRC is to pay for this contract at $10,833.33 a month.
So there's a motion on the table, just to make sure we're on the table, for approval of this contract. The motion was by Commissioner McCreary.
Correct.
Was there a second?
Well, no.
Just discussion, okay.
There's all the discussion. Everybody got either comments and discussion. I'll set.
Commissioner Beasley?
No.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Batters?
I have to abstain because we have been working on this program.
Ms. Green?
So this will go to the table. What's the other option on the table?
Well, what I don't know, have you ever had since I've worked with you guys, I don't think you've had a tie vote that has been decided otherwise.
So yeah, we'll put it on the table. Further discussion? Make a motion. Put it on the table.
Mr. Beasley?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Batters?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
So
Can I,
that
while we're on this issue, can I propose another motion? Sure. I would make a motion that we pay the $10,833.33 for January, February, March.
Second that.
Mr. Beasley?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Batters?
Also abstain from that.
And Ms. Green?
Yes.
Okay, and just to make it clear, my intent was to pay them for the work they've already done.
That's right.
And that will be split amongst the various tips, as we do usually the top floor plaintiffs. And that's the look at you next.
We have the ability to take the available to
No, because that's not, according to the interlocal, that's not a obligation that was existing when the interlocal was.
put in place.
So I wouldn't pull for.
I did have
Yes.
Send that to everybody, if you send that to everybody. Please.
Well, I got all of these that he's asked for, I assume.
Oh, okay.
We'll go over it.
Number 15, Muncie, Delaware County EDA proposal for economic development services.
So this one came to the commissioners at our last meeting. The information, the packet that you have was introduced at the commissioners meeting. You haven't seen it previously, so the commissioners took it under advisement table. But this goes along with the ECI, RPD development. As I mentioned, I put together a responsibility matrix. So other than proactive international outreach, Muncie, Delaware County Economic Development Alliance would field all other lead items. So whether it comes from IEBC or a real estate broker or a landowner, a lot of times companies will approach a landowner trying to get site control, and they'll reach out to somebody like that. So that's the purpose of this agreement.
I'm going to have similar sentiments as the last one, just with the position coming. That making sure there's not too much overlap in publicity. I haven't seen the responsibility matrix.
Well, this one, even without the position coming, the commissioners still have it tabled as well.
Right, yeah. I intend to table this at the end, but I wanted to open up the discussion.
And I asked Commissioner Brand, I know this one is still tabled at the commissioner level, but my thought was, I still wanted to get it before you guys, if it's going to come to you guys, and it goes for ECI or RPD, so I just wanted to make sure that, with that, so I just wanted to make sure they were both in front of you. I recognize there's probably not to be this at this time, but.
Because I'll make a motion at the next commission meeting, pull this off the table for discussion. But if there's no further discussion here, I make the motion to table this as well.
Second.
Mr. Keeson?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Brand?
Yes.
Got it. So, can I vote on this one or take it?
Yes.
Agree?
Yes. Okay. Number 16, DCRWD TIF transfer request. Danielle?
This was touched on by Matt Everly today, and I sent information to the board. So each year, this is one of the obligations that comes out of the Delaware TIF. I will say that I noticed in his presentation, we've always made the request for $112,932, but his presentation at $933. If a motion is made, could we please make the motion pending me clarifying that $1? So that I make sure the records are correct, because when I took over for the district, that was just the information that I was always given. So I just duplicated the letter each year, so I just want to make sure I am not putting the accounting off by $1, and I have the bond exactly like it's supposed to be.
And this
So
does come out of there. So
this does come out of the deal, but this is one that is an obligation, has to be paid.
Motion to approve with the amendment.
Second.
You need to calm down. I'm gonna get a coin. Who wants that? Michelle. Okay, and I do wanna say one thing on that approval. Let me touch up my hand over that fast. So there was an issue with the Delaware TIF that I think is maybe on the back mile of this page. Or maybe not even, because it was an issue that I was just made aware of yesterday. So when, at the end of the year with your Delaware TIF, Matt Everly touched on this also, and it's the agreement that Commissioner Brady just asked that you guys could all make sure you have before you. The way that it was structured and set up was that at the end of the year, accounting for any obligations that need to be paid out, the rest of the money would be transferred to Delaware just in one payment from a claim submitted. The way it looked to me, Brad submitted a claim at the end of the year, and then that was paid after it was sent to the auditor's office. The issue came up when Bill Walters, who sits on the Redevelopment Commission for Delaware, was presented with their meeting this last week, and he looked at the finances and he thought there was too much money transferred to Delaware. So he went over to the auditor's office, had a meeting, I believe, with Tanya. I'm not sure who all was in that, but
It was me.
Just
And then I had Peter come in and help me with some stuff as far as research.
I think it may have been hours long. And then he came to my office afterwards and gave me a quick update because yesterday was very hectic. So the long story short is that when the claim was submitted in December, it did not account for your first quarter money that had to come out in obligations. Two of them being the bond that was approved in January, the $164,264.49, and this $112,932.3 that has to come out, which would put your TIF in a roughly $280,000 negative balance. So when he found that, they talked, they sent me an email update with everything. I asked that exact amount of those two payments then be reimbursed from Delaware back to the Redevelopment Commission to cover the expenses that should have came out before that was transferred. So at the end of the year, the claim is not going to be able to be made to pay Delaware their balance without taking into account the money that has to come out in the first couple of months of the year. Because it doesn't make any sense to transfer them the money and then turn around and transfer the money back or have to worry about them then paying the obligation. The whole intent was to cover any obligations that have to come out of that fund. So Bill actually already took the action with the Redevelopment Commission, authorized it. The check has already been processed, and my conversation with him at 8:30 last night was, I think it'll be delivered today or tomorrow. So I am not going to process this claim until I know from Tanya that money is back in that account.
And I did ask for that to come to me directly.
Yes.
So I would imagine they'll hold it for me until I get back, and then I'll have to take care of it there.
And it takes me, a few days to get these claims put together and sent to Sarah, and Sarah's sent to the commissioners anyway, but I'm not even going to see them until I get confirmation that we are good to go. And I will say, I did not, what happened, and I think it's the fault of everybody in my opinion. When we came in and the director left, it was a little bit of chaos. I did not have any cash statement information. They did not have all the information on the bonds being paid because it was always processed through the director. So everyone was kind of in a mad dash to get the bonds paid on time. So they gave me the information and said, we need to get Amber to sign these immediately. Within an hour, I said, Amber, I need you to get over here because we need to get these done. Send them back to them. And nobody even looked to see if the Delville transfer in December was done correctly because it just never dawned on any of us.
And I will note that the previous director, he did account for the bot bond that gets, I call it bond, a bot payment for the Delville Town Hall. It's like $94,000 something. He did account for that for the February payment. So the February payment was paid in December. And I think that was trying to account for that and then pay the town of Delaware. You know what I'm saying? The rest of it, the balance left. But the star bond is the one that was not accounted for in the.
Or the.
Right, and then, that'll be coming up prior to settlement. So the others will be after settlement and it'll be fine.
And this is a new interlocal, right? I think we entered that
Last
year, late in the year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's more of how do we go forward.
Well, we know how to go forward.
No, how do we go forward?
It won't happen again, I guarantee
we
that.
learn some things.
And it's all been fixed in a matter of 24 hours, so I think that's pretty impressive on the auditor and Bill.
Thank you.
Thank goodness for catching it before it was a big issue and having the money back to us within 48 hours is not a bad turnaround. But mistake on our part for not thinking to check what happened in December before we made sure the bonds were all paid and not delinquent. So that was a long way to get around to saying, I will hold this until I make sure that there's not a negative balance on that.
I appreciate the transparency. It looks like there's already a negative balance. So before this happens, like $160,000.
That's the, it is at the time we made the bond.
Is that the bot payment?
That's the bond.
It's the bond,
It's actually, it's the exact amount of the
the
bond.
star bond.
The bond was accounted for, but
Yes.
not the others like that.
The bond was not.
Yeah, it's the star bond for that exact amount is what put it in.
But the first time I got these was February 4th or 5th, but we had Amber sign off last week of January, so I didn't have any of this information for that time.
It'd be a lot easier if that tip just the Delaware County Redevelopment Commission.
I know this agreed.
17, Project Jonesy discussion. I believe this is just
This
resolution.
is from, yes, this is a carryover from last month. Once you guys approved paying that $3,000, we did a resolution. So resolution 2025-03 is just memorializing that payment.
Motion to approve.
Quick, that's okay. Just discussion. So the entire cost of the Baker Tilly study was $3,000 or $6,000?
6,000. You
Okay,
guys
so we're paying
approved just half of it. Mr. Keeson.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Brand.
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Okay, your next item is, oh, sorry, it's not maybe your
You're fine.
spot. I just knew it was mine. My job spot.
Resolution for request from Sheriff Tony Skinner, the vehicles that was on our agenda last month.
So this is just your next resolution memorializing what you guys approved last month, for the $345,645.44 for the purchase of those vehicles and the outfitting of those to the sheriff's office.
Motion to approve.
Second. Put the tape on your mouth.
I read the packet.
Mr. Keeson.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Brand.
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Yes.
19, Innovation Connector request resolution for the same thing.
So 2025 is the $50,000 pledge to the Innovation Connector operating expenses that was approved last month. And I'm just ready for your memorialization to that pledge.
I'll make that motion, we approve resolution 2025-05.
Second.
It was mentioned when Ted Baker presented this that there's some legislation that potentially increased the funding coming from the state from $250,000 to $500,000. And it looks to me like historically this board has funded $50,000 every year, so maybe there's a chance to get out.
And actually, I think the year prior was $50,000, but if I remember right, there's been $25,000 pledges also in the past. So I think it's been both. Increase in the last couple of years.
Maybe an opportunity to not have to make a request from this board if that legislation goes through.
Mr. Keeson.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Brand.
Yes.
Spatter.
Yes.
Yes. Number 20, Cowan Sidewalk Project. Hi, Jeff.
Hey.
We're
here now.
You're a trooper.
Anyway, I hope.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for having me today. Today I was here to talk to you a little bit about the county sidewalk project, phases 2, 3, and 4. We do have a supplement here that's in the packet for the land acquisition services. It includes 3 parcels. Now, there's one parcel that you'll have the option of acquiring or not. Parcel 5 can be deleted if you did not want to pursue it. Just take away a curb ramp on the southwest corner of County Road 50 and Monroe Street. So it's not critical to the project, so it's kind of an optional curb ramp. You still have access on that opposite curb corner. So, but if you sign the agreement, the supplement today, and you don't perform the services for that parcel, you will not be billed for it. So any service, that goes for anything in that agreement as well. Any service work that is not needed, you will not be billed for. So if you guys have left to not acquire that one parcel, then you just will not be billed for it. The supplement itself totals $31,420. It takes care of all the buying services. It's not count the between partial.
Is this big of now industrial tip or agri tip? Or is this industrial tip?
I'll make a motion, we go with as presented. I don't think we're gonna save anything reducing that ramp, and we'll regret it later.
A second.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Moran,
Yes.
Ms. Powers,
Yes.
Stream,
Yes.
I just had one quick note. I misspoke previously about the design cost. We have the contract for the design services total $69,000. That what needs to be done now is once the parcels are acquired, we were about 90% complete. We had to put a pause on it until the land acquisition is completed, so that we know exactly where the property lines are drawn, right-of-way lines, things like that. So there's roughly 10% left to complete under contract. And that total is roughly $15,500, $523 to be exact. That's what the balance remaining design portion of the agreement. There's also construction inspection services that go along with the project itself when it's built. And there's roughly, out of the $30,000 contract, there's $19,320 left. Once that construction takes place, we would bill that as our guys manage the project. So there's nothing you need to act on. I just want to be transparent with that, because I just spoke previously.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, yeah.
Excuse me. 21 Target Industry Study update from Tracy.
Sorry to everyone in the 20s.
Oh, it's no problem. I would have stayed anyway. So I'm Tracy Lund with the Delaware County Economic Development Alliance. I shared with you some proposals via Danielle for a target industry study that we're looking to complete for Delaware County. The purpose of the study, just to remind you, is to take a deep look into existing industries and business sectors to identify areas of growth and high potential. The results of the study can help inform talent development strategies, business attraction strategies, infrastructure planning, a whole lot of other things. So this is a best practice of economic development, something that we really need to do. Since the last meeting, I did get an approval of $50,000 from George and Francis Ball Foundation to support this work. There is an ad hoc committee evaluating the proposals. There are 5 of them. The high-end proposal is $110,000, so if we select that firm, that leaves a gap in funding of $60,000. So I'm not necessarily here to ask for funding today because I don't have the amount. But if the commission did feel so inclined to approve an up to amount, that would be great too. And I can come back next month and proceed however you would like after answering questions.
So this would be shared then, so you would be sharing this with whomever is doing economic development in the county to help with attraction. So like when you have the results.
Oh, it would be shared widespread. You know, it's a plan that has to be worked. It's not something we shelf. So again, I wasn't necessarily here to seek funding today. I want to give you an update. If you would like to, then
And you're seeking additional funding elsewhere?
I sought $50,000 from George and Francis, and then the remainder I'm coming to you for. Now, I'm open to suggestions on other funding sources. I understand how this works. So, but the majority of industrial development, and this will be focused pretty heavily on industrial, is in the county. So that's why I'm here today. Once the Redevelopment Commission
I guess somewhat within their purview. I'm sure we have sectors related to healthcare and education that would be relevant too. But I'm just here today to talk to you.
The committee that's doing the scoring rubric, that evaluation, when is that due to be complete?
We do not have a deadline. I'll be sending out circulating some dates today. In fact, well, tomorrow. I'm having a conversation with Tom Kinghorn of the foundation, and we're also got some dates for the review. I feel like it is probably the best practice to review the proposals, get the exact dollar amount, and then come back to the commission with a specific request. That was my intention.
I like that.
Okay.
So does this need to be taken?
I was gonna say, if you want to keep it, I would say vote for.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Spatters,
Yes.
Green.
Yes. Okay. Next is the MOU with ECI RPD for the use of the intern. We discussed this at the last meeting, and then I requested an MOU to Danielle.
This is just a very basic MOU that I presented to you guys in your packet. The intern has already started. He started 2 weeks ago. He's fantastic, by the way. I really like him. He's fast. He's getting quite a bit done, faster than I thought he would. But he comes in 2 days a week for 2 hours, approximately. And so this is just recognizing that there is an agreement between the two entities. And then I did put in here hourly rate at the request of Mr. Kiesling because ECI is expensing this. So I asked Ms. Spatters what he gets paid, and that's on the bottom of page 1. So I did put that portion in there at the request for your consideration to reimburse his hourly rate, and we can work through those details when he reporting his hours to you. That
He does not exceed more than 20 hours a week for ECI when he reports his hours. And he turns in these timesheets to me by Friday, at the end of the day on Friday, so I'm able to go back and get any you guys need.
And this MOU sunsets once the scanning project is, for lack of better term, once that's done, this
Correct.
sunsets.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Spatters,
I abstain.
Ms. Green.
Yes. '23 3710 North Morrison, ratifying a signature on the BZA application. I had to sign this due to time constraints with the BZA. Michelle has to leave. Okay.
Just need a motion to.
Yeah, just a motion to ratify. We had a deadline to submit the BZA application so they could get into the plan commission at the next meeting that they wanted to get into. So Amber went ahead and signed on behalf of the board. And I always like to just come back anything that's got a signature on it to make sure it's ratified in the next board meeting. So just a motion to ratify.
So the next step is, if it's ratified today, they would have to before the planning commission.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Keeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. First Harrison Bank audit letter. Oh.
Heck is this?
Okay, this really was okay. When I got this, I got 3 at the exact same time. One has a heading, 2 don't. The heading has weird spacing in it. At first I thought it was a scam. I have sent this to the auditor's office. We have located that there actually is payments and claims that have been made. So Tanya was able to find that and send that to me, so I don't believe it's actually a scam now because we do have claims that were going to First Harrison Bank. I sent it to Bill because of its relation to the Delaware bot. Okay, I don't know why, but it was taking about 3 weeks for me to figure this out. So based on the information I've compiled, I am comfortable saying it is a typical just audit letter that a bank sends where they say, confirm you have this amount in your account at this time. Once I figured that part out, then I was faced with the fact that I don't have authority to contact the bank and deal with this because Brad was on everything and Bill was involved in it. So I reached back out to Bill just a couple of days ago and asked him if he would get with the bank, and I think he called them yesterday, but he had to travel, so I didn't get an update from him on this. But he's going to try to figure out, and we also sent this information to Baker Tilly just to make sure we could confirm any of the information that's in here also. But we were working with them on the bot part of it just to make sure we can say, yes, this is what was in there. Bill's helping me.
Are we sure this isn't a scam?
That's what Bill's making sure with First Harrison Bank, but I didn't have authority to access your account to call and get information from them. They wouldn't tell me anything.
Because it's still raising red flags for me. The account confirmation.pro.com, it doesn't mention First Harrison Bank in the website at all. That's usually
That
a
was my
red flag. The spacing, like you said, in the address, like I've never seen Corydon, Indiana spelled with 5 spaces before, but here we are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
this is still
that's
giving
the
me.
part I asked, but we have not submitted any information to them, and it's blank. I'm not asking for a signature or anything on this because I want Bill to still finish that part of it. But it did take me a while to even figure out that we pay something to them. So I just wanted to make sure that they were a claim that was paid and that we deal with that bank, and now Bill will figure out the rest for us.
Yeah, it was due October 31st of last year, and it's the payment due $3,964,603.
But this is just an audit. It's not saying that this is a past due. Correct. It's just was this what was in this account?
It's a bill operating transfer. Motion to table.
Thank you.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Keeson?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes. 25, discussion regarding adoption of bylaws. Did everyone receive these?
Yep. So I put these together just as a proposal. I have no pride in authorship, so if you guys want to tear them up and start over, it's okay. A couple of things after, we're always smarter today than we were yesterday. There is a little bit of information about attendance, no remote meetings, but maybe we can put an attendance about if you miss a certain number of meetings in a year, so that's an idea. Also, the number of terms, maybe we could expand that a little bit, because if we put these into place immediately, I think Mr. Cleveland would be effectively off the board. So we'd have to talk about that. And length of terms is currently 1 year. And then at some point, we need to have a discussion about whether this board becomes a 5-person board or goes to a 7-person board.
One of the things I noticed as well, you mentioned conflicts of interest in Article 8, Section 2. I don't know what is required by the county. I know city boards require an official conflict of interest form. I remember filling one out for this board last year. I don't believe we have done that this year, regardless of the adoption of bylaws. I think that's something that needs to be done.
So I appreciate the time putting these together. One thought I have, if we go to 7, which I'm not suggesting today, that perhaps the makeup would probably be one for the commission, one for the council. Should we adopt the additional members, perhaps staggering those, that they start mid-year?
So it's a rotating.
So there's a little bit of an overlap. Again, since it's an appointed body, I don't think we can specify the length of term. And I think an expanded conflict of interest, to me, there's where you work, where your spouse works, and any boards you serve on that could become a conflict. having those out there. If we make those tweaks,
Oh, there was one other thing. It says it shall be live streamed. We do not currently live stream. We record and post later.
I think effective July 1st, we have to, right?
We have to, if we meet in
it's
the
in the
commissioner's
commission.
courtroom, which we do
Just
not currently do.
What, is there a
But you
complication? Is there a
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I would love if we live streamed, Mark.
Is there a complication live streaming from this location?
No, we just have to address the audio, like some boundary lights up there, like you guys are. Because now I record it, and you go to post-production and clean the audio up as much as they can, where we wouldn't have that option live streaming, so we just have to work with some.
But there is a
boundary lights
change.
that would sit on the table.
Change shall to may for now.
Commissioner Brand, are you suggesting we do some cleanup and bring these back to the next meeting?
And I think that goes in effect July 2nd, I think. If you were the commissioner.
So we all have a motion to table all the things.
Second. Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Brand?
Yes.
Green? Yes. Inox request for final payment.
The agreement that you guys have in place with Inox had phases in which they had to complete benchmarks in order to request their $610,000 that they got each year, or at the end of each benchmark if they didn't complete it, they would get it. This request came right after your last board meeting, I got it right after your last board meeting. So I pulled the agreement and I was not aware of whether they had completed that last benchmark, but Bill had dealt very closely with them, so I asked Commissioner Henry if it was okay. We sent Bill out, and I think you did not go with them, correct?
I didn't go with them.
So, Bill went out, met with them, I was involved in some emails with Hallow, and he sent pictures back and confirmed that they are ready for this last payment of their $610,000. So this is just, I put it on the agenda and not just under the claims, because I wanted to make sure you guys understood, since there are so many board members, and there was an agreement in place that I did have Bill go out, he did do an inspection, we have confirmation, and so this can be paid out. And then this is,
This is paid out of magnitude.
and this will be an update, so I think when I put it up there, I forgot to add it.
Yeah, it's not in the
Yes, it's not, so when we do claims, I'll ask for, with the addition of adding this on there as well. And I will confirm how the last one was paid by Brad, just to make sure I'm pulling it from the same TIF fund that he did. And then I'll send you guys an update on that, but it's ready for approval.
And this would not have been captured in the tip record that we just had. More than this payment.
No.
So if, let's make up the story, say it comes out of magnitude, that magnitude will be $610,000 compared to what we had on books.
Yeah. Oh. This is the creed.
It's the creed.
So, okay, sorry.
That is creed. Okay.
We had a lot of information this time. The reason this is not under claims is because I did do what I was supposed to do. Bear with me, guys. This is for information purposes. At 3 or 3:30 this afternoon, we have a pre-board meeting that I had to set, and that's why I couldn't remember where it came out of, because it comes out of your creed. So the approval actually has to come from the creed board, which is always kind of been treated as like a sub group of the redevelopment commission. But it comes actually from that creed, and that is how that creed was written. And that's where it has to come from. That's why it's not on your claims for a TIF.
So that's 3:15 p.m. this afternoon in the Commissioner's Courtroom. The creed.
So we went from thinking we had to spend $610.
Sorry.
To thinking we don't have to spend $610. Sorry. Support the creed.
I did it right in the agenda.
So this is FY, right?
This is FYI, that's why
Yes.
it's just on the. Okay, thank you. My apologies.
Please move forward. Yes. 27, resolution number 25-06 with the Delaware County Highway Department.
We approved this.
No, I believe we tabled this pending a new request with getting the milling bid out and Tommy showing us.
This is separate. This is like the crushing equipment, things like that.
Yes.
What you're talking about is
okay.
the undertaking business. So we approved this, and I think this is just memorializing what we approved.
You're right, I'm
Similar to
sorry.
the sheriff's
I pulled
police
my,
funds, correct?
I got ahead of myself.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry.
No problem. We're on 27. Correct.
Mr. Beasley?
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron?
Yes.
Mr. Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes. Now we'll eventually get to where I was. 28, table business. First thing is Garrett Cooper and Coops Lawn Care request. We've been seeing this since like September of last year. I did?
There's a over there, so
Duplicate.
there's a duplicate payment from Lockmiller.
This is just an FYI.
It's not on mine.
So this is the,
There was a second agenda.
it was the one that got added just in the last 48 hours, and then I think I sent an updated agenda, and I did add it to the Dropbox. A lot's happened in the last 48 hours. So this was an email that I received from Lockmuir to let me know that they received 2 payments on invoice 410957. My phone is back there. Ed did text me in the meeting and said they received 2 claims for this. I did not submit 2 claims or fill out 2 claim forms, so I asked him if there's different invoice number, and he said he's investigating. So I don't know if, I don't know what happened as far as what they received. We sent a claim and we send it to Sarah, it gets processed and then sent to the auditor's office. I think I showed, somebody was in my office and I showed the claims that we submitted, and it was submitted once by me, so I'm not sure what happened.
If he got 2 claims, we should be able to see both of those claims, and then that way we can address the true recall. Maybe somebody else also submitted the claim, and maybe should. So if we can see those 2 claims, we'll see where the errors started.
And as of 9 o'clock, I hadn't received an email, but I received a text about an hour ago. So we'll definitely figure out what happened. But they recognized it. They then sent a
They
subsequent.
did lock.
Correct. Lockmuir sent that email. And then I did receive a follow-up email saying from another person within their accounting department, sending me the auditor information and the actual check confirmation showing me that they had those checks. They've already processed a refund and asked for a send it. I sent them the address, so that should be received. So they were Johnny on the spot with recognizing the auditor sent 2 checks and that there was an error. So I appreciated that from them. So we'll get that back to the auditor's office and back in the tip, and then figure out who the issue was. And just for clarity, Commissioner Brady and I, Commissioner Henry was on the phone, so you may not have heard. We had a meeting for something else, and Ed was in there, and we did clarify the claims process and how things are submitted and how they were submitted before. And he likes how they are doing it now versus how they were done before. So hopefully that helps clean up any issues that were had in the past. So we should be
Hope so.
good to go on our part.
So what do we do with this?
It was information purposes to you. There's nothing you need to do. The money's coming back and it's all been figured out and go.
Now on to table business.
Make a motion to bring 20A off the table here. We look at 20 billion.
Second.
Mr. Beasley?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
So at the last meeting, we asked Mr. Cooper to go get quotes for the top coat. And we have 200 packet, one for paving, one for the Midwest. I looked them over. We're only asking for the surface. The scope looks to be the same, although both of them are all at 1.5 inches. One of them holds about 540 tons, the other one holds about 525 tons. So I would say they're pretty much apples and apples. One of them for B&B is for $68,182.82. And the other one from Midwest Paving is for $64,800, making Midwest Paving the low bidder.
I believe part of our hesitancy with this in the past was it's not in the TIF or in the TIF. It's not on the edge of the Callan Road industrial setting, but it is nonetheless an improvement. This also, I believe, it's an MRC. Is that?
This is in the city limits, so it can't be inside of the county.
But it's adjacent to, and I believe Mr. Cooper's done quite a bit to try and move this project forward, including going to the Industrial Revolving Loan Fund. Is there very, I mean,
it's something that's been a process, and at this point, we've kind of outreach to all of our resources possible to try and get it completed. And obviously, doing something in the city limits requires a lot. It's been about a 2.5 year process, and so anything you guys can do to help us would be very appreciated.
like this building, we've done things that are in the city limits. So I'd be comfortable making a motion for us to cover half the low bid, with the thought that Mr. Cooper could go to the MRC and see if they could contribute as well.
Second.
Mr. Keeson?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
And that is half of the 65,900.
64 or 8 in the Midwest. Half of it is just the top.
Okay, not an organization.
That's a good question.
I was included. I meant, I was thinking of mobilization to be included.
Yeah, it would be. So it'd be 65.
So half of the 65.
Let us know how it goes with MRC.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I appreciate all your guys' help.
I'd make a motion to bring 29C off the table.
Second.
I should specify 29C5. Mr. Bruton's not here from the traffic study agreement. My understanding is the town of Yorktown has already funded through their town council to do the traffic study for the proposed roundabout or whatever at Taggart and River. With that, it's a duplicate request. I guess we have to vote. I gotta go. I'm ahead myself.
Before you made the motion. Okay, can we have a second on the motion to sit it on the table? Second. We get roll call on that and then Mr. Keeson?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll get back around to finishing my sentence, and thank you, Danielle. Since it's already funded, there really isn't a need for this. Tiger Drive needs, the River Road needs paving, but that's not the request. Make the motion to deny this request.
Second.
Mr. Keeson?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
No.
Commissioner Brand?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
And just for the record, I think I said it last week, I don't believe this roundabout at that intersection will solve the problem for unloading kids. Their bottleneck is actually the school.
I absolutely agree. I don't think a roundabout, this isn't a traffic problem within the town of Yorktown. This is a traffic problem stemming from Yorktown Community Schools. And to the best of my knowledge, there's not been a whole lot of communication with Mr. Bruton, but I have not had any communication with the schools. I don't know that the council has and the council already approved this.
The drainage project will wait till next month.
Make a motion, CBS engineering.
Yeah.
Make a motion to bring D off the table.
Second.
Mr. Keesman,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Grant,
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joey Martin from DS Engineering. So I've been corresponding with Danielle the last couple weeks here, providing an updated estimate. I believe you all should have that estimate, correct?
Yes.
For the railroad. So I want to make a distinction, actually. We're doing two different projects funded through UCRC. This estimate is for the Muncie Industrial Center Trail. And so my direct supervisor, Chris, was here last week talking about it. The project was built a couple of years ago, and after it was built, the railroad came back and gave their comments to the design. And so we've been going back and forth, trying to just do that one little crossing of the Norfolk Southern Railroad, Collin Road. So we provided those numbers for you there. The estimate is brought into two different categories, one for the road construction and the other for the railroad. The railroad is going to look for some money in a force account, and that's what we predict the amount there to be. Now, they don't have to utilize all that money, and that money will be brought back to you guys, the commission. So that is the construction.
So this is for a Z gate on the walking trail.
Yes, so the Z-gate, I provided some documentation to Danielle. What we believe, instead of it's like a dual arm looking gate that would bring an arm down for the traffic and then also for the pedestrians. What we've seen elsewhere in the state, such as Goshen, Indiana, it's more of like a pedestrian fence, which is what that item there is a pedestrian fence. And so it's basically creating a Z pathway for the pedestrians on the trail on both sides of the railroad. Basically encourage them to slow down, whether on a bike or to engage with the facility there to acknowledge that there's
Is this designed through by the railroad?
not yet. We go back and forth.
And the total, if it is approved by the railroad, the total cost to finish the trail dam across the road would be $141,675. That's construction and everything.
That's our estimate right now. Now the railroad would have to come back and give that amount that they would want to see in force account, so that bottom number. So we feel pretty confident on the top, 46,000 change. With a rough estimate, $80,000 for the railroad to do that one. This would require some more coordination with the state and local economic.
It'd be nice to finish that project, especially with housing coming in that area. So
it's an expensive 20 feet.
Yes, it is. It always is with the railroad.
Yeah, get the cost.
So we need to finish what we started.
So make a motion to approve.
Second.
I want to clarify the second project, the 23rd Street, which is on the agenda. That's the second project that we're working with you guys along 23rd Street that does cross South Collin Road. We're working on an internal review of 90% plans.
Can I get a roll call on the approval, Mr. Keesman?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Grant,
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I want to go back to I, intersection, the one you was going to bring up before, I think, and take on business.
Oh, with the county.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did Did you want? I'll make a motion to take that off too.
Second.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Brand?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you have something to comment?
I was confused in the
Okay.
packet. I did not.
Okay, I just want to say, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I've spoke with, what did you say? I'm sorry.
I thought he was going to be here.
I could
give a permission to not.
Yeah, we can cover it on this. You know, my thought was if, we get a price on milling, it'd be cheaper for us to pay it in the house. However, I was not thinking about the intersection after, meeting with Troy and talking to him about this particular issue. That road has stoplights in it, has the sensors in it, they're called loops. We're really not equipped to do that, the county's not. So I don't think we're okay with it.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and just an update on the bill, I'd asked for a million quote, I think, back at the end of January or February, that just got sent out yesterday. So we will have some more prices coming our way, but I don't think that we have a business doing this.
And we don't, not that section.
So we bring this back as was originally presented.
Yeah.
So a motion to table it until,
Well,
or a motion to approve that.
We had estimates.
we did have estimates.
I can't remember how much it was. I would make a motion to table it until we review the estimates presented in the last meeting.
Second.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Brand?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think anything else on the table business. We have an update on the platform entrance, right? We're still waiting on approval, so the bids can be let out. So I think we're on the voices.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions on any of the invoices?
The two RQAW ones, so I got number 9 and number 10. They're titled Save a Lot. But when you go to that actual claim and payment, just making sure that looks like they're for Bridge 51. Is that a bridge out? Is that being paid for by Save a Lot tip?
569.
It's the one right across 60.
Oh, it's the Killbuck Creek that got shut down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I understand.
And so I pulled the claim for the last time that bridge was paid for, and that's the tip that it came out of, so I just kept it consistent.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's the Save a Lot tip, I understand. And then the Brooks Street was back up at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with the Dropbox. I had it, it's been in my binder, I didn't realize it wasn't in the Dropbox folder, so I added that to the Dropbox folder when Commissioner Brand sent me an email, and then printed a copy, so I put it in front of everyone's chair so they have that. And same with last month, the reason the number at the bottom is different than the current charge is because we are just waiting on payment for February. So the current is what is on your.
On the bottom of the invoice.
Correct.
And then the last two big ones that we're consulting, those are for the Delaware Regional Wastewater Sewer and Water Main Extension Project in Delaware.
Correct, and that's the other two invoices that I was referencing when we talked about the one that was paid through the Ready Grant. These are the other two that came in to pay for that project, and that was always paid out of the Shell Building Park the infrastructure.
This was paid out of part, not tip.
Correct. But it always processed through this as the economic development project. So it's not coming out of your tip.
Question with the Tyler, do you have more questions? The Tyler Technologies, is that used by all entities across the county, or is that just split by city and county?
This was at your commissioner meeting, I believe, that was in part of this being paid by the commissioners, and then the request was that we got some of it. This, I don't know that I can answer that question. I think this-
Because the city benefits from this.
I know the city,
The city and the county and the small towns.
and the small towns too. I was gonna say, I can't remember if it's all small towns or,
So the big portion of between the county and the city and then the remaining balance is from the small towns.
In the past, this board has paid, the small towns
amount.
amount.
Okay, that's what it is.
So we would have, pre-interlocal, we would have paid probably Daleville, through the Daleville TIF, like that would have contributed. So when we do the, I guess almost the true up at the end of the year, we need to
Get their portion out of that too. And then the city has support.
Absolutely, the city pays their.
So on the back page of that, I put the top 8 TIFs to pull an even amount, almost even, for 1 cent off. Is that how you are okay?
Well, I think the
Or would
discussion
you-
was to try to pull something available to, because there was an obligation before this interlocal was put into place, or at least there was a past practice and history of pulling from those TIFs. It was customary.
Correct, which is different than the obligation, like a bond bought obligation. So I can reread the interlocal to see if there's leniency in that. I would say my knee-jerk reaction is that's not covered under this. I think the idea behind that interlocal is bond bought, DCRWD, the ones that were presented by Baker Tilly as being obligated within that tip from our financial advisors. I can look at that, or we can ask for contribution from Delville from the amount that they got on this, and then I can refigure these, whatever your pleasure is.
Make that motion.
second.
Go back and listen to what I just said.
And to approve the items.
It's not all one motion.
So approved, and Danielle's gonna figure out some TIF.
With my explanation on Tyler. Did you get that,
To
Bobby?
request it from, to request it.
Do you want me to add them as a number 9 and then refigure as evenly as I can between the 9? Did you move that second? Commissioner Keeson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammond?
Yes.
Commissioner Bray?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Before we go on from claims, there were some, what I titled extras in the packet. There was a passkey notice from First Merchants Bank. I don't know if that.
That has been figured out. I pulled that from the agenda. I didn't pull it out of the Dropbox. I worked with Tanya on this as well. We received that, so I immediately put it on your agenda and in the packet. I talked with Amber about this, and Tanya did some digging for us, and there were no fees assessed. What happened is when they were trying to apply that payment, it kept getting rejected from the bank. And it was a bank error, so after multiple times it was figured out, the bank has confirmed to Tanya that there was no issue with the payment. It was considered paid on time, no fees were assessed, and they were having problems during that time period.
In their CHPC in the area.
Right. One thing she did mention that I still have a post on is she suggested that I double check to make sure it was applied to our bond properly since the bank was having that issue. But then I have the chicken and egg that I'm not authorized with the bank, so that's another thing I'm gonna have Bill see if he can look into since he had dealings with the banks before and see if they'll give him or we need to work on getting Amber
I was
out.
gonna bring that up. I don't think Bill should be the one that has
Right.
permission to deal with everything, but thanks.
Correct. I just, in the meantime, until we got you added, I confused Bill and has never helped Brad with some of this.
Do the banks need a motion, I mean, especially from this body.
I think that's a good idea to get
So-
him wrong.
I'll make a motion to add Ms. Green as an authorized person on the bank. Also to remove Mr. Bookout if he's still on anything.
And then with that, we should be able to just go ahead and figure that out. I don't have to worry about that.
Second.
Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
And then one other, just quick thing, there's some other things in attachments for the claims for Cobalt Civil. Are these all part of that United Consulting claim at the bottom?
That's not what I thought.
Are they?
That's what I thought.
Danielle, was the change order?
Yeah, change order.
Is that in there?
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know if you needed clarification on that. That's a deduct?
it's a deduct.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have to approve change orders?
Yeah, because it'll need Danielle's signature. If I can resend that form if you need it.
Yeah, we have.
We have it.
But we need to approve
Yes.
all change orders. So make a motion to approve change order number 1. Deduct. It's $34,291.11. Second.
Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes. You go.
Bob, yes.
Bond and bought invoices, the Living Green, Fusion Shell Building.
So this was discussed a little bit in today's presentation from Baker Tilly. I believe that the only thing that's been drawn, that's like $135,000 total, and there's a $64,000 payment that's due now in the TIF, and it was presented today. Paid off that $64,000. Second to close that out. Thank you.
The reason why they're up to is in parentheses, with communication with the auditor's office, once that payoff was made, it may not be, according to Baker Tilly, exactly 64,000, maybe, just a hair less, so I put up to the 64,000. Mr. Keesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Brand,
Yes.
Ms. Green.
Yes. I don't see a whole lot of public left, but is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Any comments from the commission? No?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Pause, thinking you were gonna take it.
Well, Commissioner Henry looked like he was ready to go.
Mr. Keesling.